spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in
Below, Ninter, Yeninter, you Makati Kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, "Now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk that midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Well.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to Thursday. All right, what's happening? I know it's rained all night and a couple of things are not moving. What's moving is a lot of water. So first things first, let's be very careful. Certain roads were closed yesterday and looking like they will remain that way for some time. So for now, not much happening in terms of traffic. Let's look into Nairobi specifically. Places that you've been asked us to stay away from. Moi Avenue still closed as they're working out some things. And as you're coming off Thika Superhighway, not much in terms of traffic this morning, and I think that we'll see that build up later. Folks will always use alternate routes, or probably seeing more of that happening today, but for now Jogo Road doesn't look bad as you're getting towards the city. It looks all right coming off of the Eastern Bypass. We're already seeing some build up on Kangunda Road, but on Outer Ring we're fine getting towards the city. As you're coming in then from Westlands, also looks clear. It's free getting through towards the CBD, and we're likely to see that less movement as we get into traffic hour. All right, let's see what Thursday has in store. Please be here with us as we pilot through it. Let us know what's going on where you are, just in case there's a sticky situation or you find an alternate route. Let us know and we'll talk. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's the 25th of April, and it's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation starts now. Good morning to you. How are you doing? As we get into it today, I know it opened yesterday, and folks are asking a lot of questions. It's raining, it's pouring, somebody's snoring, that's for sure. In terms of what's going to happen when we get to the place where rains will probably be double what they are right now. Kenya Met has said that it's going to keep coming. The hope is that everybody is safe, but we know that there are folks who are in a desperate, difficult situation in terms of what's happening with living spaces. What is going to be done? That's one big question that has come out from different quarters. The president spoke yesterday and has rallied the troops to see how folks can be taken care of and that other individuals can be moved to higher, drier ground, even as the rain keeps coming down. So we'll look at a little bit of some of that as we get into it this morning. All right. A number of conversations lined up indeed today, and we'll look at some of those. What will happen from 7 a.m. until 9 as we get through towards conversations, right? Okay, so at 7 a.m. we'll have a conversation with the Executive Director of AMCA Justice Initiative. She's a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in the School of Law. Milka Wahu will be talking about minimum wage, gateway or obstacle, a focus on domestic work. That conversation comes in at 7. We're staring down the tunnel going towards Labor Day. What's going to be different this year? And then at 8 a.m., we'll have a conversation with Kevin Mutisia. He's the head of microenterprise and agribusiness at Kingdom Bank, empowering women, designing financial and non-financial solutions for today and tomorrow. That conversation comes in at 8. And then we'll round things off at 9 o'clock with Kefa Ojijo, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and managing partner at Ojijo Senior Associates Advocates. We'll be looking at emerging legal trends in employer discipline, suspension, termination, and dismissal. Those are the conversations that we'll be having today, and we'll get into it properly with you later. In the meantime, there's a gentleman of fine repute. He's here. His name is C.T. Muga. C.T., good morning.
Good morning, dude.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're fine.
I'm fine. Weather notwithstanding.
I know. Were you rained in, rained out?
No.
Rained in is what it is, isn't it?
The thing isn't, the rain in and of itself is not a problem, because it's just water coming from above.
Yes, it is.
It's what it does. You're never really sure what's on the road.
Yeah.
You're not sure where the potholes are, where the crevices are, where the craters are. And there's a trend, I don't know what it is about those who do roadworks. It's like a roadwork is not complete until it is incomplete.
Yes. You know, once you've been able to leave it halfway, then you say, we're done.
I'll be doing some work.
Yeah, or you leave like a patch.
And usually they leave some gaping holes. Genuinely gaping holes. Gaping. Okay?
I don't think we're really aware of the destruction that's caused.
Not yet. Not yet.
There's quite some major stuff going on.
The costs are beginning to pile. But as we see them more and more, we will be in a position to actually understand certain things better. But believe me, it is piling.
It is.
It is piling.
The pictures that we saw yesterday, the videos that we saw it's just heartbreaking that, folks have to leave their homes. That picture of, people forming a human string and then having to lift a baby over their heads in order to get out because the water was shoulder level. So obviously people had to leave their homes. Everything in that house definitely had been in those houses had been destroyed. You're not going to be able to salvage anything there. And then the question of, so that's destroyed, it's still waterlogged, you've moved people out, but then where are you going to go?
Where are you taking them?
Where are you taking them? Where are you going to go? What did we see in the streets of Nairobi yesterday and in some parts of Mombasa County? I mean, trees that easily 40, 50 years old then now falling across the street. And then that closes down. Traffic is ridiculous. And then when you're just dealing with a lot of all of this, come 4 p.m., the rains are back and they've come all night. I mean...
My friend, electricity posts.
Yeah. I don't think we're quite appreciating how much damage
this rain, this particular season of rain is going to wreak havoc. It is already wreaking havoc. The havoc that we can anticipate will be monumental. Yes.
Yeah.
As I said, this is garden variety problems. This one is big stuff.
This is serious. And we did hear some chatter then from the president yesterday in terms of what will be done, preparations in place to see that some of these things can be taken care of. Well, we'll look into that a little bit more, but I mean, details. Many conversations to be had this morning. So we are seeing that you all are trickling in today, as we'll come back and say hello to you. But we want to come and look at weather. What is it going to be today? The heavens going to open? Probably. We'll take a look at the weather, come back, say hello to you, and then get into it this morning properly. Yes, it's 16 minutes after 6 o'clock. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's betting, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Rain conditions currently 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's cloudy at 17 in Nakuru. High chance of rain later this morning. 23 will be the high with the lows of 16, and we'll see highs of 23. In a mostly cloudy and rainy Nyeri at 17. It's 16 and cloudy, drizzling as well in Eldoret with highs of 23. We'll see lows of 15. The rain is also coming down in Mombasa at 25 with highs of 28. And it's a cloudy morning in Malindi at 26, going to highs of 29 and lows of 25. Kisumu's cloudy at 20 with highs of 26 and at 19. Kakamega is cloudy. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 18. Out in Kampala, partly cloudy conditions at 20 with highs of 26. And Dar es Salaam is raining this morning at 25 with highs of 30. Johannesburg is cloudy at 16, highs of 27. And at 27, Mogadishu is partly sunny already with highs of 33. Sunny conditions is what Addis Ababa will see. Currently at 14, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16 today. And we're looking into a partly cloudy Lagos at 28 with highs of 34, while Kinshasa is mostly cloudy at 24. We'll see highs of 32. It's 22 degrees Thursday afternoon in Beijing, highs of 27. 3 degrees, temperatures dropping ever so slightly in Paris at 3 degrees with highs of 13. It's 4 and cloudy in London with highs of 12. And we're looking into New York Wednesday night, mostly cloudy at 11. Coming into Thursday, highs of 21 and lows of 5.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Top of the morning too, yeah, wherever you're streaming in live from YouTube, Facebook. Live streams are up and hello to you. It's always good to see somebody new check into the Situation Room and join us as we get into these conversations. So how about we say hi, shall we? Where are you tuned in from? If you're not in Kenya, or even if where you are in Kenya, how long have you been there and where are you? Jimmy Wekasa, good morning to you. Dr. Venvik is tuned in from Tuda in Mombasa. And High Quest says good morning. Ken Kihara, that's your name. Oh, sorry, Ken Kibara. I'm listening from Kabatini in Nakuru. Brian Otieno is tuned in this morning, says, good morning, everybody. Very punctual. We ought to ask for financial audits when it comes to approaching real estate agents. For example, Great Wall Garden saga in Athi River. Yeah, it's a good question, actually. What exactly happened? Who did the due diligence? Because now folks are suffering and we have to sell what's going on, or rather give up what was theirs before. Karanjan Jehia says good morning, tuned in from Nanyuki. John Mwangi says salam alaikum. Alaikum salam, good man. Jeffrey Mogaka, good morning. Ndusiti Ednah, looking forward to a great show. Nyaboke Salumia Nyaboke has greeted you, even she has raised her hand. Simon Mtozwa Ushuru says good morning. What happened to the online radio? Yes, I know some challenges with that are being looked into. The Kikombe says good morning, tuned in from Phuket, and everyone in Nairobi is wet. Okay. Yeah, well, it is quite a thing. Leo says good morning, everybody. Looking at issues in Naivasha, we'll look at those as well. Rogers Nyange says good morning, team, watching from Voi in Taita. Robert, we see you. Ado Ali watching from Taru in Kwale County. Good morning, SpiceFM. Well, good morning to you. Stephen Mwangi says good morning, everybody. Tuned in from Harrow on the Hill in England. Oganyi Momalala says good morning. Anne Gore, beautiful lady, good morning to you. Masharian Jeru says Mother Nature is very angry. I actually agree. I think she is. And the government is still playing politics with disaster. Little talk, no action. You're tuned in from Portland, Oregon. Yes. Edwin Kahura says good morning. Tuned in from Kikuyu. Sorry for those affected by floods. However, let's avoid building on waterways. This is true. And this is one of the things that actually needs to be looked at. It is actually true that a good percentage of the destruction that we are seeing today could have actually been avoided in the very beginning. And I know it's a sticky situation, but it is the truth. So that's a good point. Sila Koske, Toti Bishop, we see you. It's been a minute since you've been here. Karibu Sana. You wish to be deported to the future. Why? Saitoti Kiara says, good morning, everybody. Tuned in from Mount Kenya University in Thika. Dominic Rotich is also tuned in from Kabarnet. And Sami Mwalili is tuned in this morning and says, Wakubwa, Shikamo, Siti Shikamo.
Maraba.
There you go. Okay, our folks on Facebook, we see you as well. You're somewhere there. Everybody tuned in this morning, and very, very happy to have you in the room today as we get into the conversations and looking at things in the country and indeed around the world. Do I see you somewhere? Yes, I do. Folks in tuned. Okay. You're there somewhere. Yes, Boniface Mna is also tuned in. And Rogers Nyange, you're also on Facebook as well. Sugo Gama is tuned in from Garissa. And Tom Abok is in Kendu Bay. Where is Kendu Bay?
Kendu Bay is in Homa Bay County.
Oh, there's another bay in the bay.
Yes. The town is Kindu. And there is a bay.
There's a bay in the town?
Just like Homa Bay.
Homa Bay, Kendu Bay.
There's a bay.
Okay, there's a bay.
You get to Kendu Bay first if you're coming from Kisumu, then you go to Homa Bay.
Okay.
Yes.
These guys are just bay.
Well, yes, many of these began as just fishing villages or fishing beaches, and then they expanded as trade expanded.
Okay. C'est bien?
C'est très bien.
Ouais, c'est le proverbe. Et d'où le pays, de la démocratique. Non, ce n'est de démocratique. C'est la République du Congo, non?
Yes,
ouais.
Oui.
There you go.
Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail.
The who?
Gorilla.
Oh, gorilla.
Gorilla.
Squirrel.
Now let me tell you the version. In Zilingo of Zikongo.
Tibatoto.
Now this one is Zela Zela.
Hey.
Mokomboso. Azanga Mokila.
What is gorilla? Of those words, which
I
one
have
is gorilla?
no idea. I've been doing this hoping that someone will say, Ziti, you've got this one wrong. It's supposed to be this. Oh, Ziti, yeah, that's good. It's this. I've been hoping to hear that. I'm before the week is over, meaning by we
Tomorrow.
time get to tomorrow, maybe I'll be able. Someone will call and say, okay, this gorilla is actually called Zela, or it's called Azanga, or it's called Mokila. I wouldn't know.
Or waiting is Zela.
It could very well be waiting.
Waiting. Yeah, you're waiting.
And then the gorilla there will be Mokomboso.
It's possible.
It's very possible. Everything is poor.
Exactly.
Right.
Waiting. Huh?
Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail.
Get into it. Don't wait.
Gorilla doesn't have tail. And you know why?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so let's look into the headlines. On the front page of the Standard this morning, jobs. What jobs? Kenya is witnessing increasing levels of unemployment coupled with mass layoffs by distressed firms and reduced earnings for those retaining jobs, according to a new report, which blames high taxation, soaring interest rates, unpredictable policies, and government's failure to settle bills owed to its suppliers. So it's looking at some percentages there. We'll look at details of that. Deaths, massive losses as floods cause havoc. Residents of Nairobi's Mathare area salvaged their belongings after a night of flooding caused by heavy rains. The Meteorological Department has warned Kenyans countrywide to brace for more floods. I mean, those are some of the pictures that we did see yesterday, and I mean, it's really, it doesn't look good. And then the rains came again last night, so what are we looking at here? All right, looking at some other headlines on the Standard. CBC to have only one exam at grade 12. What are we doing? It started at one exam at grade 6, another one at grade 9, another one at grade 12. So it looks like we're changing that now. And we're going to do one exam after all. Kenya National Examinations Council clarifies that grade 3, 6 and 9 will only assess learners' progress and achievement in previous grades, but that we will have this one big exam in grade 12. All right, the AG, in this case being the Attorney General, has the last laugh in a tiff with the Public Service Commission. Somebody's won the battle. Who will win the war? MPs ignore proposals of Raila Ruto talks team. Are we not finished this thing? A House team has defied the decision of the National Dialogue Committee to pass IEBC Bill 2024 without any alterations, instead proposing key changes in the electoral legislation. They wanted to change the whole thing, but now they're saying, forget about that. What we're going to do is just give some key changes. Court says no to sugar imports. It's in a bid to build the local sugar industry, one would assume. On the front page of The Nation, gentleman carrying a baby. And the flood situation. So this is what we're talking about. Imagine if he wasn't carrying this baby, where would she be? And how would she be able to get through it? Flood's nightmare. The deluge has caused businesses to suffer losses and disrupted road and rail transport. More than 10 people have lost their lives in the last 3 days following heavy rains in Nairobi and its surroundings. Destruction, raging waters have swept away bridges and destroyed people's homes and property while marooning entire estates. And the response? The president has directed formation of a multi-agency team as Azimio Chief Odinga wants floods declared a national disaster.
What needs to happen before we understand that it is indeed a national disaster?
It's already a national disaster. You don't need. Well, this is the thing, that if it is once you have a declaration of a national disaster by the president, what that does is that you can automatically release emergency funds. Once it's declared, emergency funds then can be released from Treasury. That's what's supposed to happen. So I don't know that we needed that. Look, and I get what you're saying. Okay, so
I'm actually asking the simple question.
Just do the thing.
How many estates need to be underwater? How many people need to have been swept? How many vehicles need to have been swept? How many roads need to be damaged? How many bridges need to be overrun with water before we understand that this is a disaster?
How long do we have to wait before the gorilla loses its tail?
Yes, exactly. This is really what I'm asking, because it's happening. We can see it.
Every day it's happening. People are going to wake up today.
Now, let me tell you the twist in this whole story. More than ever, medical services will be needed.
Yes.
And what are we doing? We are sacking doctors. Anyway, let's go on.
I know. On the front page of The Nation as well, Yatani questioned over loss of 8.2 billion shillings. Former Finance Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani and Marsabit Governor Muhammad Ali spent 6 hours yesterday at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission offices in Nairobi and Isiolo counties, respectively, over alleged embezzlement of 8.2 billion. In the tickers, Somalia Prime Minister, we've lifted barriers to foreign investment, so come one, come all. Counties start sacking doctors. Over 50 medics in 17 counties have indicated that they have received their dismissal letters, signaling a new phase in the standoff. Scandal, fake fertilizer, firm questions hasty compensation plan. A chemical company that has been linked to the substandard fertilizer scandal saga has opposed plans by the NCPB to compensate farmers. Yeah, and even as 50 have been sacked, the doctors remain defiant as counties begin to fire them. It's a lot today. We're going to look into some of those in detail, but CT, what have you got?
Well, in the star, top right hand corner, into green, a stalemate recorded. This is me reading my own things. Actually written statements. And we have written stalemate. Means I am still where my mind is and where my eyes are. Not this.
Two different places.
Not same location.
All right.
Statements recorded. We are at advanced stages of nabbing Waine's hacksaw killer, says DCI. If the DCI determines to actually catch this individual, they will. They will. They most definitely will.
Yeah.
Existing aircraft old, worn. MPs push for new jet for President William Ruto and DP Rigathi Gachagua.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
My thinking exactly. MPs push for new jet for William Ruto and for President William Ruto and DP Rigathi Gachagua.
Is the old one broken?
No, they say it's old. We have aircrafts that flew 1945 and they're still flying.
Is it broken?
It's old.
Okay.
Implement as is. Ruto team to amend report by National Dialogue Committee. Professional competence. Born to be a general. Lieutenant General Charles Kahariri's journey in the military. This is a story of page 10. Then bang in the middle of the paper. High drama. Supporters attempt to block arrest of ex-Treasury CS and Marsabit Governor. Yatani in 8.2 billion Ethics and Anti-Corruption probe. Money meant for county staff, assembly allocation, as well as other expenditures. Well, it's a probe. They have not said he's guilty. They've just said they are probing. And he was called in for questioning.
There's no charge even.
Yes. Now, something infinitely more serious than this. 12 dead as nature unleashes its fury. Incompetence haunts Kenyans. True statement that. True statement. This is a picture of children being carried shoulder high. No, in fact, not even shoulder high. And this is in Mathare. This is absolute destruction. And then we see a vehicle stuck in a pothole. Now, this is a lorry. Time a lorry is stuck in a pothole. That isn't a pothole, it's a crater. Okay? And with it stuck, it means other things will not move. This pothole existed before the rains.
Yes, it did.
It probably simply increased in terms of its capacity during the rains, but it was there. A stitch in time still saves 9,
Yes, it does. Oh my God.
Right, let's look at the Business Daily and let's see what it has to say. Debt beats development, recurrent spend combined. Debt service costs consume 1.24 trillion in 9 months. Debt.
Debut.
Okay. Full year debt expenditure expected to be 1.86 trillion.
God.
Right. Court allows KCB to auction 100 Great Wall apartments. Okay? Great Wall apartments for sale. Right. ICT deal tops agenda for US tycoons in Nairobi. Okay? American tycoons are seeking deals in ICT, renewable energy, agricultural technology, apparel, and textile section ahead of next month's President William Ruto's visit to Washington, otherwise known as Washington, D.C. Audit reveals 1.7 trillion in uncollected taxes.
Sorry?
Audit reveals 1.7 trillion in uncollected taxes. Taxpayers are staring at about 1.7 trillion losses in uncollected taxes, exposing the taxman to revenue shortages even as he struggles with collection. I don't understand this.
It's okay.
I don't understand it. CMA rejects NSE bid to decide term limits of its top bosses. Well, the Capital Markets Authority Board has declined a petition by the National Security Exchange to allow that its board to determine term limits for its chief executive and chairperson. Goody. This seems to be a little tiff in the making.
Yeah.
Rise of assembled phones dim digital access goals. Locally assembled smartphones, whose factory was launched in October last year, are retailing as high as 10,559 and could further rise to 11,550, a new study has shown. Right. This, I think, is supposed to indicate us one anticipated that because they were locally assembled, they ought to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper than what exactly? Because 11,000 is still cheaper than 15,000.
This is true.
And then 20,000. I haven't gone to 50,000, have I?
No, or 150 for that matter.
Yes, none of that has happened. So that is the Business Daily.
Okay, so we're going to come back and look at these stories in detail. First, let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. If there's any major drama that has started to occur or whatever the case may be, also taking the reins into consideration. Yes, we're back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, we're not seeing anything really out of whack just yet. Traffic building up on the Thika Superhighway. I need to come towards that Pangani tunnel. We'll see some traffic build up there. Also, as you're coming in on Kangunda Road, there is a little, bits and bobs of traffic as you're trying to connect with Outer Ring and then get into the city. If you're coming off the Eastern Bypass, no movement. Actually, a lot of movement there because we don't have a hold up, so that looks good. And then as you get onto Hulu Highway, we will see that will get busier as we get through towards traffic hours. So for now, you're all right. Remember, very important, pools of water, you will find them. Will you go in if you do not know how deep they are? No, you will not. Okay, one thing to remember this morning. Let's talk through it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so there's a flood nightmare. Let's look at what the nation does with this in terms of details. So we've looked at it. So more than 10 people have died in the last 3 days, and this is just Nairobi, following heavy rains in the city and its surroundings. Destruction, raging waters have swept away bridges and destroyed people's homes and property while marooning entire estates. We've seen quite a number of estates east of the city, and this is going into Machakos County from Syokimau and then moving east. Quite a number of estates already underwater, literally. And some people have had to leave their homes because it's just too much. And remember, this is not just water that comes in and then goes. It's water that comes in, it stays, and then the rain keeps coming, so it keeps pushing in. There's been a response, and this was yesterday. President Ruto directs formation of a multi-agency team, and Raila Odinga wants floods declared a national disaster. This is covered. And I mean, what are we looking at here? Rains batter Nairobi and its environs, leaving residents counting heavy losses. And this is everywhere you look. I mean, literally. A local rescue team carries the body of a man believed to have been swept by floods in Athi River yesterday after heavy rains that fell overnight. And we're looking at another picture here. Nairobi City County staff cleared trees that fell on Moi Avenue in Nairobi yesterday. And this is not just one, so there's a number of those. The remains of a house that collapsed due to heavy rains in Mathari's Mabatini area yesterday. The heavy rain left many homes flooded. Residents of Mwiki in Kasarani view a crane attempting to recover a lorry from River Majimazuri yesterday. And this is everybody standing in water, right? A resident of Thiha village in Mukuruweni in Nyeri County near a section of a bridge over River Gura that collapsed, disrupting transport between Thageni and Mukuruweni yesterday. Rispa Magiera sorts out her household items at her home in Clay City, Kasarani yesterday after it was flooded, and a Red Cross team on a raft. Please understand that the water levels are so high that they are in a filled up raft on top of the water to try and rescue people from their houses where normally there is no river. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. That's how bad it is. Red Cross team evacuates residents from Graceland Estate in Athi River yesterday. Folks are being rescued from their estate in a raft because the water levels are so high. That's what we're talking about.
Some people are sleeping on top of the roofs of their houses. Yes, roofs of their houses. Have we declared it's a national disaster yet?
No. Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Flooded homes in Clay City, Kasarani yesterday. Heavy rains also rendered roads in the area impassable. A cameraman struggles to wade through the water at Graceland in Athi River yesterday with his camera held high so as not to get that wet. These are just some of the pictures that we're looking at. Heavy losses. And then, is the rain letting up? No, it is not. Folks are talking about Mother Nature fighting back. Did you reroute in order to build? When these approvals were being done, did we look at the path that some of these waterways will actually take? This is very simple.
Why are you asking difficult questions in the morning, do?
Should I wait? What time should I wait to ask the question? Okay, let me wait until 7 o'clock.
No. I am seeking an answer, not a postponement of the question.
I know what you're saying. I say, why are you asking hard questions? I mean, it's because it's very clear to me, CT.
See, you can see. There's space. And there's somebody who has figured out they can put up a building.
I mean, there's open space.
You can see the open space. And usually, this is during the dry season. So you figure, and first of all, it looks nice and green. It's nice and green because, my friend, it is a passageway for water. Not complicated, really. But,
my God in heaven.
We haven't seen the end of this, huh?
No, we have not. Met says that the rains are going to get heavier and they're going to get more frequent in the next 1 week. Okay?
It's not just 1 week, my friend. And not even 2 weeks, not even a month. We're going to be with this rain for quite a while. Yes.
Okay. So the question is, even with this multi-agency task force then that has now been called on by the president in terms of what is going to be done, and Raila Odinga calling that this be named a national disaster, what exactly is going to happen? Let's look at what has happened in Nairobi in the last 3 days. More than a dozen people have died. Thousands have been affected. Thousands of people were forced to move from their homes for safety, leaving behind their marooned houses. For the better part of yesterday, major city roads were submerged, leading to heavy traffic snarl-ups, with businesses being disrupted as traders counted losses due to impassable roads. Besides the city's poor drainage system, some of the waterways were blocked by construction sites, which redirected floodwaters to estates, causing extensive damage. Do you see? Construction is going on, whether they were approved or not approved, because we did hear that Governor Sakaja said yesterday, all approvals or pending approvals halted, stop that. for new construction. He said that yesterday. But then the question is, for those that are currently ongoing.
So what is it? Do you halt them as well?
Because the damage has already been done. If these constructions have taken place on waterways, it is very clear what's going to happen. The natural path that water will take, because you can see that, engineers can see that.
Not only can they see, they know.
The natural path that water will take, you have obstructed that path. So now when water comes in copious amounts, where do you think it's going to go? It's going to come back. And where does it come back to? People's homes. And that's what we're seeing today. It's very clear. So
now, let me just spice this up a little bit for you. Houses built on riparian land, or on, let's just call them waterways, shall we? And the building has 3 floors of basement. You see where I'm going with this?
I get you.
Right? And there are vehicles in these basements. What do you think is going to happen?
Child's play with those vehicles, man. They're going to look like those, those Monopoly cars. When we play Monopoly, and they're just kind of move. That's what's happening with them now.
And some of those houses are also like those Monopoly houses. You're sort of like. Now, what this means is that unless something is done now, and urgently so, the sort of damage that is going to be witnessed with very many properties in the city will be profound. Yes. Because the moment water gets into the basement, the water is going to seep into your foundation. What do you think the safety levels of those buildings are going to be?
Yikes.
Yes, indeed, yikes. And here we are. We had given permission to build up to 25 stories. Yeah. There's a manner in which you can describe certain thought processes. There are certain thought processes that defy any logic or any titling and naming that you can come up. But amidst all this, do you see organized, structured government mitigation in all the problems that we're talking about? Do you see it? Or are we still at the planning stage?
What are you talking about, CT? The president said yesterday that the those multi people will form a task force.
Multi-state agencies.
Yeah, those ones. Will form a task force.
Will form.
Yeah. So maybe today we'll see what they'll say will be done.
No. We were told by Met it is going to rain. It has rained before we have a very clear idea of what happens when it rains.
Yeah, we were told in January.
Yes.
December, actually.
Yes.
December.
Steps that need to be taken. That's where I'm at. I'm not, what should we do now? That's not where I'm at. Whatever we're doing now is not even remedial. What are we going to do? Stop the rain?
I don't know, man.
Whatever is required needed to have been done before it started raining. Long before. We were told, we knew. And there were mentions regularly. Those who are in charge, the rains are coming. What do we need to do? We did have a gentleman here who comes from the city county of Nairobi. And at that point in time when we had those El Nino rains, he told us what they had done, isn't it?
Yeah, he told us everything is all right. It's cleared and
they've done it. South Sea, Southwest, South, yes, whatever. Now let me ask the question.
Yeah.
Right now, I think we'd better just call that gentleman to come back and talk to us. Instead of doing this guessing game, he's the expert.
That's true.
Ednah, look for this gentleman so that he can come back and tell us exactly what is happening. Stories from politicians are all good and well. While people are dying, people are being rendered homeless. Diseases are literally around the corner waiting. We have a doctor strike which is slowly morphing into a strike which will involve health workers. Now, at the time when health workers are most needed, the conversation is, let us sack them. Good for you. Let's see how this is going to turn out.
It's going to be pretty ugly.
Because this situation is not just going to be in towns. Even in the rural areas, you're going to find that suddenly roads are impassable. These shoddy jobs which were done, people complained about but were neglected, you will see them. If a good job was done on a bridge, it will weather the storm. If it wasn't, we will know.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, when we know, it'll come with destruction already.
Yes. All the roads on which they applied black lipstick and didn't do what they were supposed to do, we will know. One deluge, by the next one, it's all been washed away and you can see exactly what was not done. And here we are.
Indeed. It is. It continues to develop. Let's see what happens today. But we already know that the rains are still here. They're coming down. Okay, give us something else, CT, as we go to the next.
Right. I want to talk about this debt beats development, recurrent spend combined. Kenya's debt service costs have now overtaken, listen carefully, its combined spending on recurrent and development projects. Let me repeat this again so that you understand it. Kenya's debt service costs have now overtaken its combined spending on the recurrent and development projects due to the heavy maturing debts, not heavy rains here, maturing debts, underlining the nightmare that debt expenditure has become for the country.
Okay.
All right. An analysis of data from the Treasury shows that in the 9 months between July 2023 and March, the government has used 1.24 trillion to service debt compared to 1.1 trillion spent on salaries and executing development projects. Okay?
Okay.
The high cost of debt service is a result of maturing obligations. No, it is not. Both externally and internally, with the full year spend expected to hit a record of 1.8 trillion end of June. That is June this year, not next year.
Yeah.
Okay? This is according to records that are within the Treasury. So, given the gusto with which we accumulated debt, this is not something that we will pay off today and next year. Beyond June this year, this problem will still be staring at us because we are still accumulating debt.
This is it.
The only silver lining in this conversation is now we are looking for these delightful debts that A, long term, B, have a good moratorium, C, interest rate is minuscule, okay? As opposed to the commercial loans that we seem to have run and sought after, which are now killing us very, very directly.
It's a tricky situation, isn't it? Whereby you are paying more in debt than you are for development, and then basically keeping the lights on. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
It is tricky.
Yes.
Wow.
It's very, very tricky. So essentially, whenever the government collects debts, it's for paying debts. The government collects taxes, it's for paying debt. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And whatever we collect, it's not even 50-50. The debts take up more of our money.
Yeah, so you're going to have to ask yourself the question then, in this day and age, then when will you develop? When will you do these things which are guaranteed to then make sure that you can be in surplus? You won't be able to. When will you ever get to the point whereby you say, okay, one of the ways in which you will be able to make that, for example, your imports far outweigh your exports rather far outweigh your imports, is that you have to invest in industry and manufacturing and things like this. How will you do that? How will you invest the development agenda? How will you bring that to the fore if a big chunk of any kind of revenue that you have is going towards servicing debt? You have to ask the question.
The misstep here is that in an attempt to ensure that we meet these obligations, the government has put in place a raft of taxation measures. And unfortunately, these taxation measures are also, they're contributing to the bottleneck situation where it's expensive to even do business. So many people are opting not to do business. Those who are already in business are some are opting to shut down their
businesses. But it is happening, CT.
It is happening.
It is happening. People shutting down their businesses. That's what's on the front page of the Standard today, where folks are saying, you know what, firms are distressed. They have reduced earnings for those retaining jobs, according to a new report which blames high taxation, soaring interest rates, unpredictable policies, and government failure to settle bills owed to its suppliers. So people are doing exactly what you're saying. Businesses are shutting down. So when you took at extra taxes, if I have 10 people who work for me and I see what needs to be done, rather than say I'm going to stretch myself to make sure I pay for these 10 people, I will reduce the number to 5. That is exactly what is happening today. I will shut down my premises and I will deliver from my house. That's what's happening.
Well, that is what is likely to continue happening. And also remember that everything else that falls under the understanding of government obligations, ensuring that government employees are paid, ensuring that government ministries are given the budgetary allocations that they need, because these are the ways and means by which the government provides services to the citizenry. All these things are not going anywhere. They're exactly where they've always been, and the demand isn't going to go down. The counties are also going to be demanding their pound of flesh.
Indeed.
And they've already started saying so.
Let me tell you something else the counties are doing. I tell you.
Please.
Counties have started issuing dismissal letters to doctors who are yet to return to work.
Right.
The letters, which cite the doctor's absence as a breach of their employment contracts, signal a new phase in the ongoing standoff between healthcare professionals and the government. So now they're not even saying that, oh, you have been on strike because of 1, 2, 3. They're saying that, you've been AWOL. In a doctor's WhatsApp group, over 50 of them in 17 counties indicated that they have received their dismissal letters for desertion of duty and gross misconduct. I have this morning received my dismissal letter, said one of the doctors. They have said that I have absconded duty and that I do not exist on their payroll. None of these intimidations will scare us. We will not go to work until the last doctor is fired. Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union Deputy Secretary General, Dennis Miskela, confirmed that he too has been fired. I have not earned my salary for the last 9 months and I have been working. They owe us and they're now dismissing us because we are asking for what is rightfully ours. We will not relent. We will let them fire all of the doctors. Dr. Miskela, who is a senior medical officer and a gynecologist in Embu County, said that he had 6 months to appeal and apply for a review of the County Public Service Board decision. This is to convey to you the decision of the County Public Service Board via letter, which resolved you to be dismissed from service on account of desertion of duty and gross misconduct as stipulated in the Human Resources Policies and Procedure Manual. His letter was signed by County Secretary Amy Ruria. The doctors had issued a list of 19 issues they wanted settled by their employers before agreeing to a return to work formula. According to the national government and counties, 18 of the 19 issues had been addressed except the one on interns, which they said will be taken up by the court since the doctors, through their proxies, had taken the matter to court. They said, now that you've taken that one to court, this issue number 19 we cannot handle, so we'll wait until the court decides. The union backtracked on the return to work formula that we had mutually settled on before a series of 6 marathon meetings. Their new demand on medical interns is an all or nothing out of court settlement, according to Head of Public Service Felix Koskei. Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumisha said that the government had released 3.5 billion shillings for payment of salary arrears. Now, this salary arrears, you'll be happy, from 2017 to 2022.
Those are the arrears you're speaking of.
Yeah.
And released here means what exactly?
Released. It will be paid over 5 years. So, Treasury has released it. Okay?
Nothing is in that.
It will be paid over the next 5 years.
Does it sound
and this
like
is money from
released?
7 years ago.
Does it sound to you like that qualifies as to be described as having been released?
She said they have received the money as the Ministry of Health. What they do with it after that is a totally different story. Okay? Now, governors have started to sack. Counties have started to sack. Doctors have said, until you sack the last doctor, this thing will not come to an end. You guys want to play with us? We will not be played with. We are still not going to work. The only language we will understand is when these issues have been addressed in their entirety. Don't play with us or not to be played with.
The first strike of doctors we ever had in this country was 1982. The then Minister for Health was a gentleman called Arthur Magugu. Okay?
Yes.
All right. But he had been preceded by one Njoroge Mungai, who was Minister for Health 1963 to 1964. He was succeeded by Joseph Otiende 1964 to 1969, Isaac Okero in 1974, James Osogo 1975 to 1979. They did not experience a doctor's strike. 1982, this was in the time when President Moi was still a doctor. Now, the Member of Parliament for Seme, a gentleman by the name of James Nikal, was among the people. He and doctors like Professor Kamarogu were among the people who led the strike. My friend, it was ugly. And the simple thing was, what the doctors were asking for is what they now do. They're saying, look, folks, we really do need to be allowed to practice and still work for the government. The government said, what? you only work for the government. Said, no, we can do both. No, divided loyalties. Doctors were moved, families were moved from houses where doctors were living in. Removed. It was ugly.
Yeah. With some force.
I don't know when it is. There are things I may not understand because I'm not privy to the discussions. But surely, amidst a problem such as the one we are now experiencing, is this a time to be talking the language of threats? Why are they getting into a pissing contest?
I don't understand.
What is being asked for is clear and straightforward. Why can't they address it clear and straightforward?
And I think this is a thing that in terms of information is not being made clear to folks who are listening into this debate, is that the requests or the demands that are being made are not outside of issues that were agreed upon by both parties historically.
Yeah, they're not new issues.
They're not new. They were agreed upon. So why backtrack and make it seem as though these fellows are being knuckleheaded?
But that's what they're trying to present. And the simplest, the doctors are saying, this is what we agreed upon. And in previous times, we have even agreed to sort of let some rest for a while as we look into others. We have accepted. The reason why we now have this strike is because even things that they said, look, why don't we start with this? The let's start with this was never started with. This is the problem. And then new issues come up now. You have a situation where you have interns and all manner of individuals are speaking into this thing. It's unfortunate.
It is.
It is very unfortunate. While all these discussions and these talks are going on, people are dying because the services that is their rights as citizens of this country can't be given to them because of this impasse. And this is not something that is beyond solving.
It can be solved. And we must continue to talk about this. It can actually be solved, that folks can actually sit at the table and figure out a solution. Conversations continue after 7. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
With politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's 7 o'clock. What's happening on the roads this morning? Actually, not much. Traffic is not doing the business right about now. There's movement on the Thika Superhighway, but then it's all going to come together at that Pangani underpass. And I think that's where the most of it that we'll see for today. Some roads have been closed off. Give you information about that in a bit. Also, coming off Manyanja Road, crossing over towards Jogoo Road, it looks good. Just at that junction is where you'll see some traffic. And Kangunda Road also has a little bit of traffic, but it's flowing smoothly on the southern bypass, heading out towards the Langata Road interchange, heading towards Ngong Road in one direction, or Langata Karen in the other. Okay, so apart from that, we're not seeing too much. We will probably see a build-up on Uhuru Highway later, so just prepare for that, plan for that. Aerodrome Road is sealed off, so you can't use that as an option. Remember, they said you see some flooding on Waila Dingo Way, you might want to stay away from that. If you're in Mombasa, remember it's Links Road, Nyeri, that is completely submerged with the extra rain that we saw yesterday. So you want to avoid that as well. Let's keep talking, folks. Let us know what you see or may be some help for somebody else. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The only way to start your day is 3 minutes after 7 o'clock. Good morning to you. And as we're getting into it, waiting for our conversation that will happen coming in at 7, but we're going to, come back and continue a little bit of this conversation around the doctors' strike this morning, in terms of what is happening around the country. Look, see, even as we wait for our guest and we're looking at workers and we're looking at domestic work, and what this actually means in the light of what will happen come days when there will be an insistence on how much you should or should not spend. Here we are looking at how much a government has agreed or not agreed to spend when it comes to doctors who will go back to work or not go back to work in this case. The hard stance that we've seen, the olive branch or olive leaf that has been put out to some folks today, and we're saying, okay guys, can we actually come back to work? Can we actually have this conversation and say, all right, we understand? Or is it a time where it's crunch time and they say, you know what, this has happened too many times?
It has.
It has happened too many times.
It has.
And the promises have been made and folks have gone back to work and nothing has actually been done to ensure that their livelihoods are protected and that they can work in these conditions whereby they're offering medical care to Kenyans.
It means they've been lied to. Exactly. Because they agree, go back to work, we have got this formula, not everything we demand is being given at once, but we'll get this. And then what happens? They renege on the very things that had been promised. The crunch time in a situation like this, unfortunately, equals lives lost needlessly. People who didn't need to die, citizens who didn't need to die, will die. People whose right it is to be able to receive health care, quality health care, will not receive health care because of this. And you listen to the conversation and you're asking, surely it can't be that these people are that difficult to talk to. If they've been working all this time before they called on this strike and whatever was agreed upon had not been implemented, surely how can you then say these are unreasonable people? You hadn't fulfilled the promises you made. They were working and they say, folks, there's another thing, can we sort out this? And all you hear is words that don't really provide the solution to the problem at hand. Anyway, there's something here that I need to mention. Given the problems we are now having with the rains, there's one body within this country who are trained to deal with such issues. It's called the military. The military understand disasters because when they train, one of the things that they do, they go to terrains that ordinarily you would consider to be very harsh. And they navigate this terrain. And within the military, they have an engineering corps. Okay? These people build bridges. Now, people who build bridges it means that they also know how to handle situations like the ones we have. And we have them like in Nairobi. How many barracks do we have? We have several barracks around here.
Just in Nairobi, yeah.
Just within Nairobi, yes. We have Langata, we have Kahawa, we have one which is just off Wayaki, we're here. These are personnel who could be brought in to assist.
Do you think that why we have seen the level? Okay, the levels of destruction that we've seen, these are natural. These will happen naturally by virtue of the fact that, geographically we see that it will rain at a certain time. They've said that this is what the weather pattern will look like. That is a natural phenomenon. There's nothing you can do short of going and having a conversation with God and saying, hey, how about you hold on the rain for a minute?
Or take it some other place
while we get our things in order. You can't really do that. It's natural. You can't control it. What you can control is what will happen as a result of that. And essentially what we are saying is that preparation, that control then has not come into place, and that's why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing today. It's not the first place on the planet where floods have ravaged. It's not. People's houses have been rained in. It happens all the time. But in terms of what happens or what you can actually do to, number one, prevent such severe damage and destruction, or number two, make sure that people are safe in an event where this will happen. I keep talking about they were called the Great Fires of California. They still happen every now and then in California, but they know in advance of time that the weather will be so dry, it will be dry tinder for these fires to happen
easily.
So the two things that they do, there are folks who build in that area anyway, and the material that they use for building their houses then become, at some point, a little bit more fire resistant so that the destruction is not as severe, and that they have enough time to leave the area before it affects them. Or number two, they start to tell you guys, in the summer months, the fires will actually occur. The fires will occur, and we're asking you in good time to leave. We can come in and the fire rescue teams will be there to make sure that there is adequate, a material that's put on to put out the fires, or to make sure that it's moist enough so that they do not light up. But that they do that in advance because they are aware that these things will happen anyway. In advance of time, what could happen? I think it is good that a team is being put together. Maybe they will start to congregate today. Maybe we'll start to hear what will happen tomorrow. I think it is good that a team is being put in place. My issue is that it may be being put in place a little bit too late in the game. That one life lost is one life too many. The destruction that we've seen should not have happened, but that today what will happen to make sure that even as these rains continue to come, we will not see as much severe loss as we have seen today, at this point in time.
The entire concept of disaster management doesn't revolve around allowing the disaster to occur and then you manage it. No, mitigation is part of management, and the all hands on deck approach, where you use every resources available to you to ensure that these things are adequately mitigated against, again, follow the same trajectory. The preparation so that whatever damage is likely to occur is limited. Okay? Because when you have natural occurrence such as this, there will be damages, but it is minimized. And the way it is minimized is when you are prepared and you prepared your people. Again, that is why the word mitigation now comes into play, because you have seen and you have understood that this is what we're going to do to ensure that we minimize this. You prepare. Just as you're talking about people moving, the areas that are usually hardest hit, we know the informal settlements are likely to be hit. Any development that took place in riparian land or waterways that had been there, when you have such rains, there will be a problem.
There will.
Now, there are people who are knowledgeable in these matters. We even have a State Department that deals with disaster management in this country.
City, we don't.
Yes, we do.
They've not, it exists in name. It has not been activated because it has not been then delivered the mandate to then be able to deal with disasters, whether they be drought today or floods tomorrow. And that's one of the things that the gentleman from the Red Cross here said last week, that yes, in name it exists, but has it been activated with the powers that it actually needs then to see through its mandate and deal with these things as they come? You can have a very beautiful car and you have all the hardware, but then you're not putting the fuel in the engine for it to actually do what it ought to, because essentially that would be the body that deals with these things over time. It would be the body that gets the information from Kenya Met, for example. It would be the body that gets information from all of these monitoring agencies who have anything to do with what could be a potential disaster. disaster. But then they cannot because they've not been given the legs upon which to go. Why has it taken so long, for example, to activate that? Why not activate this? Because you know what you avoid? Then every time something happens, like CT, when there was a drought, was there not a stakeholder committee that was put together to deal with the effects and mitigate drought? There was. There was buildings collapse, and then you put together a stakeholders committee to deal with that. Then there are floods, and then you put together yet another stakeholder committee to deal with that. Meanwhile, you have a disaster management authority that has not been given the power or has not been activated to operate. So one would ask, why? It's been over and over and over and over again. Then now you take resources that essentially you could use to activate this authority, whereby, and then you give them to stakeholders committees that come together when there's drought. They come together again when there are floods. When a building collapses or something else happens, they come together again, whereby you can just take all of that and you can apply it to this authority to actually do its job of disaster management. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do that once and for all and have it done. Why? It doesn't make sense to me.
It's not supposed to make sense. Disaster by its very nature often doesn't make sense. You see it unfolding and you're busy trying to figure out what it is that's happening and why it's happening and what could have been done. That is the nature of a disaster. That's why we call it a disaster. Because it's a terrible happening that has gone outside the reach of or the confines of your ability. And it's happening and it continues to happen. The call in my mind has to be for people within communities to find ways of ensuring that they stay safe. Because waiting for interventions from any government authority, it's all good and well to wait. But as you wait, you need to do something. You need to be able to get to organize yourselves in the communities that you live in. Within those communities, there'll be people who understand some of these things well. You know why I'm saying this? We just can't sit there and talk about this thing and do nothing, because it continues to rain, people continue to lose their lives, people continue to lose their livelihood, all these things. And buildings haven't started collapsing yet. Roads are going to be swept away. Bridges are going to be swept away. So forget this problem, and schools are opening soon. Is it next week?
Yes.
Precisely. So children will not be able to go to school. And then there'll be the danger of, even if children are going to school in school transport, what if this transport gets swept away by? Yes, exactly. So, because you are the citizens and you can see these problems are coming at you, they will come. You need to think of what you need to do.
So we're talking about the fact that there can actually be citizen mobilization. Of these things.
Yes.
That we already can see a pattern, and a pattern has formed. It's formed very quickly, but it's formed all the same, whereby we already can start. We see the areas where things are already bad and they're likely to get worse.
Yes.
That we can decide that, okay, what can we do to mobilize people to move?
Yes.
Don't remain in these areas whereby it's already. Can we move? Is there? I mean, I know it sounds like we can ask the question. Say, people say, okay, so where do you expect me to go? Where do you expect me to go really quickly?
Not all the land in this country is flat. Neither is it land that is in a valley. There is the alternative exists, and this is where now you bring in the government and say, this is what we want to do. We'd like you to provide us with land where we can move these people. We'd like you to do this. We'd like you to make this arrangement. We'd like you to plan for this. The thing is this. It is futile talking about this disaster that we are now living in. And the understanding that more is on its way. If the government is planning, let them plan. If the government has things they want to do, let them do it. But the citizens must do what they can do, because there's always something you can do. There is always something you can do. How many times have we seen in this country where there's a disaster, whether it is drought or other disasters? How many times have we seen Kenyans coming together to help in these situations? I'm saying this because even as you get yourselves into positions of helping yourselves, in that grouping, you are better placed to now communicate to your elected leaders to do what they need to do. All hands on deck. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. Everyone. This is an opportunity for the citizens to hold their leaders to account. This is our situation. We elected you. What are you doing to ensure that the help that we pay taxes for comes to us? What are you doing to ensure that the government we elected is doing what it's supposed to do for us? You are the one who was elected to ensure that these things get dealt with.
That if there was ever a time that you needed to be able to stand up and say, you know, something needs to be done, it would be now.
It's now.
Whereby you're seeing that things have actually, you know, done a flip and gone belly up. That to say, you know what, here in this situation, we need to see you. Where are you? We need to hear you. What is it that you're saying? We need to feel you. What is it that you're actually doing?
Yes.
That people are, we're not saying that people will. People are today facing a serious problem. Lives have been lost, and the possibility of them losing life is even greater, right? So what are we actually doing? When we're saying mobilizing people, who's helping to mobilize? If it is that you can go stay with the relatives, because you know, do that.
Do what needs to be done.
If there's going to be destruction, what will then be done in terms of some compensatory activity to have that sorted out later? But in the meantime, are we making sure that people who are at risk are actually taken care of and moved from those areas? We know that the eastern side, the dormitory towns of the dormitory areas of Nairobi are already being affected. Dormitory counties, Machakos being affected. And we're looking at going out towards Kiambu Road, out past into Kiambu County, being affected as well. And we're looking on this other side where you're now crouching on Kajiado County. All of this is being affected. Why then can't we? I mean, we've not seen anything save for what the Red Cross is doing in rescue people. We have seen some county involvement whereby county deputy governors' offices have come out to say, okay, who can we help and how can we help? Where can we do it? But it is not enough. A lot more needs to be done. It is not possible that we see children being carried overhead to then stop them from having to drown in water, because that's exactly what will happen.
Yes.
That is exactly what will happen, and we cannot continue in a situation. It will be very interesting to see what happens with the county, with the country, actually, now that the president has said, you know, let's get some of this sorted out. In the coming days, it's going to be tough, and of course, our hearts and minds are with those who are actually in a very tough situation today. And it is our hope that something will actually be done to say that you can be safe for today, but in the same time, you can be compensated for tomorrow, you know, and those are the things that we're dealing with today. So let's see what the next couple of days looks like. The rain continues coming down, but I think it's a word out. In a situation whereby you are at risk, please do not stay, because it could actually get worse. All right, getting into other conversations for this hour. Our guest for the hour is here. Milka Wahu is here with us this morning, Executive Director at AMCA Justice, and also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Good morning, Milka.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good to have you here. It took you a minute.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I came from Machakos.
You came from Machakos, where it is underwater.
By a boat.
What's the road like?
No, the road is okay. The road not very bad, but I came from the other side, not the Kitengera side of the river. Yeah. I think the river is worse. That other side of Kitengera. Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's good to have you here, and you know, I mean, better late than never, isn't it? Today we're looking at minimum wage, and of course, as the days start to get towards May 1st, when there's the hope for certain things to be said or done, we want to look at, you know, domestic work specifically, and we had conversations, and we're having conversations about, you know, work that is possible to be created for youth, younger people, for children, and saying that this is an aspect whereby they can work, but how can they actually be protected? As we get into that conversation today, we want to welcome you properly as you take a breather, and we do that by giving you Proverbs. CT goes around the continent every week, comes back with a basket full of Proverbs from one country. This week we're in the Republic of Congo, and CT has that proverb, and then what we would like you to do is tell us how that proverb resonates with you and what it means for you. Yes? All right.
Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail. It's just a proverb, Milka.
Yes.
Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail.
Yeah, I didn't get quite the question, the conversation.
That's the proverb.
That's a proverb.
Yes.
Now we'd like you to tell us what you think it means.
Because of waiting too long,
The gorilla.
the gorilla lost its tail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You got me, yeah.
By the way,
yeah, but
there
yes.
is no
yes.
right or wrong response.
Yeah, I think so.
It is your opinion.
Yeah, it's my opinion.
We'd like you to tell us how you interpret this proverb.
Yeah, I think it's just like when we say justice delayed is justice denied. From a lawyer's perspective, most things are timed. If the time passes, then it becomes obsolete. Yes.
Like opportunities.
Yes, opportunities, yes.
Sometimes
there is nothing without time limit. Yes.
It comes, and if you let it pass, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nothing without time limits. And the discussions that we're having this morning and looking at domestic work, the children's conversation has been front and center for a while, and that we're seeing a lot of that come up. A couple of weeks ago, and I shared this previously, there was an article and it talked about a lawyer, and actually it's not just an article, but it's an action that the lawyer has taken a case to court whereby he's saying that, you know, on holidays, children should not be allowed to work. Because a lot of parents now activate that time when children are on holiday and then make them work around the house, could be equated to domestic work, that parents could actually get in trouble. If this is actually heard, and if this is actually heard by the courts and discussed, we could be looking at a situation whereby if you put your kids to work at a certain level, whereby sufferation then is brought into the equation, it could actually be deemed illegal, and parents could actually start to have an issue when it came to the justice system. But let's do some definitions first of all, shall we? When we talk about domestic work and where we can involve children, in what arena are we actually talking about here?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important to make it clear that children should work. That is a general rule.
Okay.
The parameters and where and how is what matters.
Okay.
First, children should work in the house, in their homes. It is a child's obligation and duty to support the parents. Okay? And that is the law. Even the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child has a whole list of duties of what children should do to support the home and the family. However, what is a problem is when we put children to work that affects their health. And when you talk about health, they're talking about physical, mental, emotional, that is highly affected, and also stop them from living their lives as children. That is, they can't enjoy recreation, they can't play outside with the other children, and they can't go to school. So when work affects the child's ability to enjoy the children's rights that are enshrined in the Children's Act and other international conventions, then that's where the work is a problem. But work is important. How will you have responsible adults if they are not working? Mind work. Yes. Yes. So they should work in a way that is structured. Let the child work, then go play outside, go to school when it's time to go to school, and come back and also continue with helping with the work. So most of you are looking, the problem is when this child goes to work in a third party's place.
Yes. So now we're asking this same child, if this child is removed from the home setting and now starts to work in a setting whereby they earn some kind of wage, what protects or what guides this employment that this child will take? And remember, child, we're talking about between the age, for working now, we're talking about between the age of 11 and 18, or is it less than that?
Yeah. In terms of working, between 11 and 13, it's very little thing that they can do. Very little. In fact, hardly are there opportunities for working in a third party place, unless it is simple thing or things which are advancing their talent, like there we see children going to comedy and such. We are not talking of a child who is hired in a normal way of employment, the way we look at employment. We're talking of a child who is in space for a short period of time, not more than 3 hours.
Okay.
Yes? Period of time. So mostly the group that is a bit problematic. So any other work for that 11 to 16 to now 15 to just before 16 is illegal. 16 to 18 they can work, but also the Employment Act is very clear. What work can they do? Remember the general rule. They can work as long as it does not affect their ability to enjoy their rights as children, which rights we have talked about, including going to school, including recreation and all that. So the nature of the work is also in the schedules of the Employment Act. There is a list of work that a child can do and a list that a child that cannot do. There are those we call hazardous work that they cannot do. They cannot work like in quarries, industries, all these industries that manufacture things and all these species. There is also a list, I think in the 4th or 5th schedule, that list of the work that a child can do. Among that list is a child cannot be hired to be cleaning, cooking for families, and such kind of work. So when you come to child domestic work, when you remove cleaning, the house, cooking, and washing the clothes for the family, what work is remaining? Maybe look after a child. It's not in the list.
Yeah.
That list is of what a child should not do. So, and that's what we are saying. As per the law right now, a child in a domestic setting, and that is the 16 we are talking about, then in that case, it's a problem, legally speaking. Unless this list of chores that a child can do or work can do is revised, then it still remains a problem. But I see it. If a child is in a third party, not in their home, in a third party's house, working as a domestic worker, cleaning, cooking, looking after children, will they really be able to enjoy their right as a child? Do you think there is any person who is hiring a 16-year-old and allow them to go and play and enjoy their right as a child? It's a very dicey situation. Yes.
You know what I find interesting is the issue of work here is, well, work isn't the issue. The issue seems to be if that work is specific to an engagement or a contracted engagement, whether it's verbal or otherwise, and for which there is a remuneration, a payment. Meaning, if a child is cooking in their parents' home, that's okay. They're cooking in their home. If they're sweeping and cleaning and looking after the younger siblings, it's in their home. But the moment, as you say, a third party engages them and there's a payment attached to it, then we run against the headwinds of the law. Is that so?
Not exactly.
Yes.
There is work they can do, even in a third parties. For instance, in the list, a child can go to my neighbor's house and for some hours, not the whole day, for some hours help with the cleaning, including cleaning the car. Okay? In my neighbors can clean my neighbor's car and they get paid. But they cannot, according to that list, they should not go and get hired in a car wash and spend their whole day washing cars there. So there is an issue of what work they can do that is outlined, and also an issue of how many hours continuously should a child work. Yes.
Okay.
So that is the law. I mean the strict letter of the law. Yes.
Minimum wage comes into this as we look at this question. Minimum wage comes into this, and now when we are looking at children who are minors under the age of 18, you're declared a minor, and then now we say when this child can be engaged in such employment or with such duties, do they fall under the bracket of minimum wage? And then how is that then calculated or even expressed when now you know very well you've hired a child?
Yes, they should be paid minimum wage because anybody who is working should be paid minimum wage. Yes. So this discussion, like I said, is very dicey because we have situation of like those children who are 16, 17 who have not gone beyond class 8 and they have found themselves, maybe they have even gone for vocation, which is like 2 years, and they find themselves in the employment. And that's where we are talking about looking at these laws and policies and trying to balance. Is there a way that these children can still work in this environment? But the only question is, how will you protect them in these private residencies, which are high areas of abuse? It's not like any other employment place like this. Now, but if a child is hired, then they should be paid minimum wage. Yes.
Let's take a break on that point. Milka Wahu is our guest this hour, the Executive Director at AMCA Justice and also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And we're having a conversation this morning on minimum wage. Is it an obstacle? Is it a challenge when we are looking at domestic work, work that actually, younger people can do? But is the minimum wage question one that needs to be dealt with? It's 27 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll take a break and we'll be back with this conversation after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luhyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
With politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi with highs of 24, and it's cloudy as well in Nakuru with highs of 23. 23 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Nyeri, and looking into Eldoret, it's cloudy as well, going to highs of 23. Light rain in Mombasa at 25, and in Malindi, cloudy at 26. 20 and mostly cloudy in Kisumu with 19 and cloudy conditions in Kakamega. In Kampala, it's partly cloudy at 20 with highs of 26, and Dar es Salaam continues to rain at 25 with highs of 30. Johannesburg is cloudy at 16 with highs of 27, and we're looking into a mostly sunny Mogadishu at 27 and a sunny Addis Ababa at 14. Partly cloudy at 28 in Lagos and 24 and cloudy in Kinshasa.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
So traffic is not going to be too crazy today, and we're looking at just a little bit of it here and there coming in on the Thika Super Highway, just at the Pangani Underpass. But really, wherever you look into the city today, it looks like, okay, folks have decided this Thursday, we're not going anywhere, or even if we're going out really quickly. We're looking at some traffic coming in on Limuru Road, out towards Village Market, and then through towards Aga Khan, and then touching on your avenues of Parklands. And as you come off the Thika Super Highway as well, we have some traffic, and it's quite busy. We'll keep an eye on that as we go through it. Also coming out of Westlands and Wayaki Way through towards the CBD, that continues to be busy. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 23 minutes to 8 o'clock, our conversation continues this morning with Milka Wahu, who is here with us as we discuss some of these issues around domestic work. All of these things pop up usually around this time every year when we're coming towards Labor Day, and who can work, who should not work, and where children or younger people fall into this divide. So as we then ask the question and say, look, with the big dip that we have in education, with those who are able to continue with education, there are huge numbers every year of those who don't. And sometimes we say, what are we going to do with them? Right? Where do they go? What do they do? And we've said they can't work. But here we're opening up a conversation and saying, yes, actually, you know what? They can work. And there are spaces in which they can be accommodated, but we have to make sure that they are protected. And is it something that can be policy? Is it something that then can be formalized with the proper safeguards in place? How would we see something like that playing out, Milka?
Okay. Yes. Just to clarify, we have said we are talking about children who are 16 to 18.
Yeah.
Between 16 to 18. These are the ones who can do some work. And according to the law, there is a list of what they can do and what they cannot do. But also the reality, children below that should not be employed. And especially below 13, absolutely no. So the reality is that they are working. There's some children who are working, although you can see there is that conflict with the law as to the kind of work they are doing. But when it comes to, and that is a debate now we must have as a country in terms of policy alignment, aligning the policy with that if we have children who are coming out maybe of vocational colleges and 16, 17, because they didn't go to high school, and they would like to engage in work that is classified like domestic work, then under what parameters should they be able to work? And this issue is mostly about protection, because what we see on the ground is most of the children who work, they are abused. And because they are children, they are not able to negotiate, including minimum wage. They are not only not able to negotiate against abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, a lot of emotional and insults and all that. So you find that children get into very abusive situation because of how domestic work is structured. It's in someone's home. In most cases, you'll find that child does not even live. They don't even know about their right to having a day off in a week. And these are the rights that they should be able to enjoy as they work in this particular home. So we need to think, if we say, and we open and say, that children between 16 and 18 work in this environment, how then do we ensure that they are protected within that environment? They enjoy the entire rights, gamut of rights that other employees within such kind of environment in domestic work are also enjoying. So that is something that really needs to be we need to engage in the policy arena. Yes.
There's a reality here that unfortunately creeps into this discussion. That reality is called poverty.
Yes.
The moment someone is poor, it automatically comes with very many negative things that work against you, the person who's poor. You are disempowered because of poverty. You cannot actually negotiate well because of that disadvantage. So if you look at adults who are disadvantaged because of poverty, they will take any amount paid, even if it's below what it has been stipulated as low as minimum, because they need to survive. Case in point, when you look at the watchmen who oversee places that we live in, we know what the law says about what they should be paid, but that is not what they're paid. And how do we know this? Because we talk to them, and they explain to you, and they tell you. Now, that is an adult. If this adult has a child who is 11, 12, and this child is willing to work, because this child also understands that they need to support the family, okay? The disadvantage of this child will be multiplied.
Definitely.
Because they have gone to work with the consent of the parents. Now, our lived experience in this country is such that it is important that we understand the law. And even if our people understood the law, the poverty, and I'm going back to it again, and the disadvantages it brings with it, it becomes really difficult for these things to be actually implemented as they should.
Yes. First, I would like to mention that poverty is a very serious driver of child work. However, it's not the first. Research has shown, even research that has been done by the Freedom Fund, has shown that family breakdown, the social structure, where mostly in cases, for instance, mother and father separate, and children are left in between. And left in between is what causes many children to end up in labor, because they don't have anyone to look after them. The other thing is, a child who works and starts to get into this third party, remembering again this third party and this environment of full-time work, then we lose that child. We lose that child. Because this work, we ask ourselves, why is there the law in the first place? Because the law is not just there for purposes of just having us being regulated. There is a mischief that the law also seeks to solve. And what is the mischief? To protect this child's life, to protect this child's emotional, psychological, physical well-being. So the moment we put this child to work, we are going to be having a child who is going to lose out on all these health parameters. And what adults are we going to have? An adult who is affected, and most likely a poorer adult than the parent. So the problem of child labor, it's that it does not solve the poverty problem. It increases 100-fold, because what is the experience we have with our communities we work with? Children who end up at work in various age. We have in our Muga Africa website, even in the we have done some stories of lived realities. This girl she's orphan, she has nowhere to go, so she ended up in domestic work at 13 years. At 15, 16, she's a mother out of rape from that same house. So at 16, when she's a mother, is she poorer or better? So the law is important for always having minimum parameters, so that we can always have something that we are striving to achieve. We can't just say because we are not able to do, let's not have the law. So we must have a minimum parameter that we're trying to achieve. And that's why we have minimum wage, we have minimum age for children to work, and even for others. So as we strive to work towards there, we must ask ourselves, are we making the situation worse than it was?
How do we ensure, how do we enforce a lot of these things whereby a lot of these activities, a lot of these actions are not formalized? And when I say formalized, is you have no idea how many 13 or 15-year-olds are working in a domestic setting around the country. You have no idea. Do you? Do we have an idea of how many there are? We don't have a bureau where this information is being collected. So how do we ensure that safety parameters and guidelines are being kept, whereby we don't even have the numbers or the data about how many of them are involved in this kind of practice? And how can you protect if you don't know the information?
In many parts of this country, whether it's urban, but most in the rural areas, you will find these young children working, not because they're going to be there permanently, but to raise money to pay fees. Yes. There are people who, for instance, who during the harvesting season will be part of the harvesting, part of the planting season. And the reason is to raise money. What you say is absolutely true about families and how it is that in situations where the family has broken up, the children, of course, become extremely vulnerable. Now, the truth is that the majority of families are not broken. The numbers of broken families are rising, but they don't, as of now, constitute the majority, not in this country. It may at some point, but right now it doesn't. But the question we ask ourselves, you see, I'm stuck on this poverty issue.
Yes.
If you look at many of the issues, whether the people are poor or not, the fundamental problem in many situations where there's a breakup in a relationship, it's money that is involved. Either there's too much of it or there's very little of it. But it causes it tends to play a very important role in the breakup. When we talk about understanding the rights of children within the context of employment, an organization such as the one that you lead, have you, or is it that you've already done so, ensured that the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, when they look at the curriculum for teaching students, this is something that is taught so that children actually understand their rights as they go along and as they go through school? Okay, because if it's taught, then it'll be understood. Okay, that's number one. Two, whether it is that even beyond primary, secondary, this understanding continues, so that at every phase of a young person's life, they interact with this knowledge. Because if we are talking about change, because these children will become adults at some point, if the knowledge is inculcated at an early age, when they're adults, they will still have that knowledge. But if it isn't, then they will be stuck in whatever forms of life their parents and those who are older than them had.
Yeah, what I know is in the curriculum there is children rights. They are taught children rights. And even mine, they keep telling me, oh, it's all right. When sometimes I tell them things they don't want to do or things. But you see, these children rights, the way they are taught, they're not taught in context. Like, for instance, there is no context within employment. So a child knows their right, but once you remove them from home, then they don't know their rights extend up to where. So they will not be able to claim for the same rights if they're in an employment setup. Maybe that's where the gap is, that they need to know your rights extends beyond here, and if you're in an employment as a child, these are also your rights to this point, to that point. That is one thing. The other thing is, we must be very careful, because this debate, by the way, it's not just a Kenyan issue.
Right.
It's a world over problem. Child labor in terms of definition, up to where, what, it's a problem. We call it a wicked problem. A problem that does not have solution in one package. It keep turning itself around, and you find a lot of threads that you can't really tie up completely. So it's a big problem even worldwide. But we must be very careful as we talk to our people, that we don't make it appear that children should never do anything and work. For instance, I grew up in high poverty, coming back to poverty, in high poverty. What we did on Saturdays and in all school holidays, we'll go to our neighbor's land and pick tea. I come from small-scale tea growing area. So we would be picking tea and being paid for the kgs that you have picked.
At what age was this?
From as early as 10, I think. Yes, and we will not be in picking tea the whole day. So we'll go with our parent, we pick tea, go and take it, get it measured, and we give our parents are paid. And in the afternoon, we go to the river to take maybe the cows or to swim or to whatever, to do whatever else. That is not illegal. And on Monday, we are in school. Remember what I said. Work that prevents a child from being a child. So in the afternoon, I'm at the river, enjoying the river. I was working in the morning somewhere, and we made some money. And on Monday, I'll be back in school. Now, that work would be problematic, and which would be illegal, and should be illegal in that sense, if on Monday, I go back to the same place to pick tea, and I don't go to school. And so I drop out of school. I am there, even if it's Saturday, from 6 to 6, because I'm a child.
Let me give you an example of something that I witnessed some years ago. In the early years of this century, that was when the HIV and AIDS scourge hit certain parts of this country. It was so devastating that you find the majority of adults, not some, had died. So the people who were left were 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Now, many of them now became the adults in the home. You go to a region in those early days and you want to talk to the elders, and you're met with 17, 18-year-olds. Okay? They have to fend. Many of them were fishermen. Now, if you look at the wives are children. And when I say wives, you'll find one individual has 2 or 3 wives. This fellow is around 18. So a child has married other children. Okay? Now, these were unusual circumstances, though. But because fishing guaranteed an income, there are many people who, under those circumstances, preferred to go and fish because you start earning money at a very early age. I'm still stuck on poverty, and I'm still stuck on the lived reality that makes people do certain things. See, what you describe is something that happens in many communities in this country.
Yes.
And it is controlled.
Yes.
And it is even understood. Okay? But what happens when those dynamics change?
It is an obligation of the government to ensure that there are structure, social structure, and social security structures to protect vulnerable children. And we must always try to hold the government accountable. Because if we don't protect our children, we have no future, even as a country, or even as a continent in Africa. Statistics, by the way, shows right now, the 2023 statistics, that the last few years, the number of child laborers in Africa doubled, and they are more than all the other continents combined.
How do they explain that?
And then we ask ourselves why we are poor. Because we are not taking care of our children. So it's the responsibility of the government to ensure their social structures. If I die, and the father of my children die, then, and the children are young, there should be social structures to ensure that those children, again, even though they'll be able to do work here and there, they're able to continue with school. They're able to continue with school, they're able to access basic human rights, and they're able to grow to be responsible adults.
Right.
And that's how nations develop. We don't live a structureless life where if the parents are died, children just scatter, and poverty will increase. And that's why government has structures, even local government structures. There is an assistant chief, there is a chief who is supposed to see that that home is now orphaned, and to get these children into the government system so that they can access. Actually, of late, the last few months I've seen government really registering these vulnerable children. There is a system and there is a program that is going on. And even during the time of HIV scourge, there was the OVC. Program that was registering children, trying to support. Countries like Botswana previously had very strong system of supporting children, especially during the HIV/AIDS time. Children who were orphaned and they were supported, and those children ended up becoming okay and being very productive members of the community where they would have been even if their parents were there. So we cannot live. We cannot say now we let our children scatter out there. Let the assistant chief find these children, this 11-year-old, this 12-year-old who have dropped out of school and gone to fish because the parents have died or the parents have become irresponsible. Actually, I must mention here, and I'm sorry to say so, a lot of time parents are just not bothered. Yes,
but
because we do these cases.
Sure,
we do these cases.
Understood.
Yes.
Yes. Milka, but these children, are they out working, earning money for themselves, for the benefit of the family, for the benefit of themselves, or having been sent out by their parents? Which one are we looking at here that overrides the other?
Most of the time you find a child working because they don't have the ability to decide I'm going to work. A few of them find themselves in workspaces because maybe they were truant and learn away. But most of the time the parent is involved. And this money goes back to the parent. This money goes back to the parent. And in the process of this, the child's life is affected in a way that it cannot be repaired for the rest of their lives in most cases.
But then are we seeing that in this day and age, then, like you're saying, if chiefs and assistant chiefs now becoming more involved? Because, I mean, yes, we heard a couple of weeks ago that, there's a talk that, children's street families would be done away with, children's homes essentially will be shut down. But then do we see involvement when it comes to where are these children going? Is there now more vested interest by the state to make sure that children, teenagers, are actually taken care of who do not have a structure of the family unit in place to take care of them. Are we seeing that?
I wish government came with me today. There was someone to come from government. But what I can say, it's something that we must continue striving towards. In the rural areas, it's easier. Where my rural area, I see the chief getting involved. Actually, you find like, I've seen my chief on Christmas time. My chief is my neighbor. So during Christmas,
your chief is probably your relative.
Yes, actually, my chief is a relative.
Yes.
So, and we talk, and I ask her around what is happening. You see her getting very involved about these children who have done class 8 and they are not going. Who is not going? How can they apply to Equity and those other places? Only the problem is here in Nairobi because of monitoring structures are very difficult for a chief. They don't even know who is their member, who is their subject. Here in Nairobi becomes a bit difficult. But even stories on issues of street children, there are many other systemic injustices we have that happens and bring children into the whatever. Maybe it's a story for another day. For instance, we have so many alcohol laws which are jailing women and leaving out their children unattended to, and they end up in the streets. So we need to look at even other things which make children go into the streets and go into work. So, when it comes to protecting children, it is a responsibility first of government and then of the parent. It is not me to ask my child to go and get money for me. It's me to go and get money for my child.
Right.
It's also my responsibility to find out what opportunities exist. So you find most of these parents who are telling children to go and work because we don't have school fees. They have not even bothered. That's what I'm saying. Most parents, some of them are irresponsible. There are so many TVETs. These TVET
training institutions.
Yes, there are so many in the villages. At least that is one thing the government has been investing in. Some of them don't have anyone. They cannot attract children from those villages. That the 15-year-old who are not going to Form 1 to go there and train to do something. And you see, in the process of being trained at the TVET, they are growing. By the time they are leaving that place, they are almost now the age of employment without struggles.
There is actually something that can
and those things are also not extremely expensive. We must also ask our parents to be responsible.
Right.
Yes.
Milka Wahu, thank you for being here. I don't think we can exhaust this in an hour. And of course, opening the opportunity to have more conversations around this in the future. Thank you very much for being here today. Milka Wahu is the Executive Director at Amka Justice and a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Conversations continue. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. .5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in
Bello, Ninter, Yeninter, you Makati Kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, no, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's being police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
CT Muga.
CT Lodge. Muga, not Muga.
He's here, and here's the day's proverb.
One man marries a woman, another man marries troubles.
Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It would die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
with the same IBC.
You can't.
I told you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Because kina Ednah, it's like you said, the bees and the peas. Kila kitu mkapo mkisia kisema atasema opposite.
Opposite?
Ukisema hii anasema opposite. Opposite. Ukisikiliza namna hii unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room, Spice. The only way to start your day.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, still looking at traffic in the city this morning. It's busy as you come on the Thika Superhighway, just at that Pangani underpass, but it's not too crazy. Some traffic also on Kiambu Road. It's also busy as you're coming in on Limuru Road, all the way from the village market. That has been busy for a couple of days. And also, what are we looking at here? Lower Kabete, going out towards Kuna, Spring Valley, all of that behind as you come out through towards Pangani. It's pretty busy right about now. Also looking at some traffic on Ngong Road. We're going to watch out for that. Raila Odinga Way. Well, not so many folks are using that right now. And Langata Road is also busy as you try to get into the city. It's busy on James, or rather on Jogo Road. Land is not doing too badly, but the Eastern Bypass has quite some traffic. It's busy as you get onto Outer Ring, and also traffic coming in from Cabanas going towards North Airport Road is busy as well. We're in traffic hour proper. Let's see what happens as we go through it. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Indeed it is. 6 minutes after 6 o'clock, getting into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And as we get into that, what we'll be discussing this hour, we're looking at empowering women, always a fantastic one to look at, and divining financial and non-financial solutions for today and tomorrow. Our guest for this hour is seated. Kevin Mutisia is the head of micro enterprise and agribusiness at Kingdom Bank. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Ndu.
Karibu sana. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. You are in the hot seat. It's cold outside, so how about we warm things up in here? And as we look at some of these solutions for this group of people sometimes that, needs it, isn't it? We're going to welcome you properly. It's your first time here. CT always has proverbs for us, and it kind of warms things up a little bit. So he'll give us the proverb, and then you can tell us what it means to you, what you think about it, and how it makes sense to you. Yeah? Okay.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of the Congo. Not to be confused with Congo DRC. This is Congo Brazzaville, as it is called. Okay? Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail.
You got me.
Who, the gorilla? Or your tail?
Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail.
Yes. By the way, the interpretation of a proverb, there is no wrong or right answer. It's your interpretation, how you respond to it. That's what we're interested in.
Yes. My thinking is you wait too long, yes, you lose on opportunities.
Yes.
Huh. Well, that hit home for me just now when you said it like that.
Yes.
If you wait too long, you miss out on opportunities.
Yes.
Oh, okay. True. We learn something through. I mean, it's interesting how everybody who comes in has a different perspective, and then we learn something from that. Okay, different perspectives to be learned from this morning. Empowering women and Kingdom Bank giving some of those solutions. Let's start off from Kingdom Bank. Kingdom Bank here, having been in tell us a little bit about the bank. How then have you been able to get into Kenyan society, Kenyan communities, and how you're working in society today?
Thank you. Kingdom Bank is a homegrown bank for Kenyans and by Kenyans. We are a subsidiary of Cooperative Bank of Kenya, whereby we share a lot of similarities with them. Our key focus market is for MSMEs and individuals. MSME, majorly we are trying to see how can we cater for needs of the MSMEs out there. However, this does not imply that we don't market to other segments, such as the corporates, the salaried individuals like me and you, the farmers out there, the chamas. We have quite a lot for everybody in terms of our product offering. Our financial and non-financial solutions are geared towards ensuring that our customers are able to, are able to transact and save through our accounts, whereby we are offering quite some attractive accounts out there in terms of having interest earning transactional and current accounts. Secondly, we are having salaried accounts for our salaried customers, chama investment accounts which also earn interest also to support the chamas. Secondly, our solutions are also geared towards ensuring customers are able to borrow affordable and competitive priced loan facilities. We try and meet as many needs as possible with our loan facilities. That is working capital needs for business people, personal needs for employed people, asset acquisition for those who want to buy a vehicle, a mortgage for those who want to invest in property. Third, our solutions are geared towards ensuring the future of our customers or ensuring our customers' assets through our subsidiary, Bank Assurance, KB Bank Assurance, which offer a variety of insurance products in terms of health covers, education policies, medical covers, motor insurance, and such.
Okay. Okay. So now as we look at, some of the issues that we're talking about here, empowering women, and you talk about financial and non-financial solutions for today and tomorrow. Let's start with the non-financial. What would be non-financial solutions that would empower women? What are some of those?
I would start by saying majority of people, when they think about banks, they only think about the financial solutions that banks offer, that is accounts and loans. But there's another conversation on how a bank would empower a woman in terms of offering non-financial services such as capacity building, whereby we do a lot of trainings. We bring a group of women together, a cohort of women in a room. We train them on specific subject matters, pain points that are out there in the society, maybe in terms of leadership, in terms of enterprise management, in terms of how do they market their produce, and such.
Okay. And so now when we look at the financial, what are some of those financial solutions whereby that because you give this particular solution, eventually a woman would be empowered?
Our financial solutions that are geared towards empowering women, I'll go back to what I had said initially. One would be the loan facilities, offering women affordable loan facilities. We have a product or a package that we have come up with as an institution that we are calling Faidi Dada, which is geared towards uplifting women, empowering women. And by empowering women, we empower the society at large. So our Faidi Dada encompasses features or benefits whereby a woman is able to get capital through borrowing from us. Secondly, a woman is able to acquire assets, maybe capital assets or movable assets. Thirdly, a woman is able to invest, those who are doing farming, in terms of buying farm inputs for the farming. Fourth, a woman is also able to have an easier way to trade when they are dealing with other entities in terms of our trade finance facilities. Thank you.
If I were to ask, how many counties in this country are you represented in as the Kingdom Bank?
Thank you for that question. I would say around 10 counties. We have a footprint of about 20 locations in Kenya. And just recently, on Monday, we launched our new branch, whereby our new baby, Gikomba branch, which we are targeting MSMEs and, of course, individuals in that target market. We find ourselves that we have branches in Kiambu, we have branches in Nairobi County, we have branches in Uasin Gishu County, Kisumu County, Kisii County. We also have branches the far end coastal region, whereby we're having 2 branches in Mombasa and Mtwapa.
You say it's a subsidiary of the Cooperative Bank.
Yes.
So what is it that the Cooperative Bank realized was a niche that the bank as it stood did not cover for it to now bring in the Kingdom Bank?
Kingdom Bank is a niche, is a bank that focuses on a certain niche of MSMEs and individuals.
Okay.
And that is what the group decided to invest in, a bank that would focus on MSMEs and individuals. That's why even in our new branch cements that ideology in terms of we are out there in Gikomba, an area whereby it's known for MSMEs.
Right. So what do you see, and this is interesting because one would assume that the solutions that a financial institution like yourselves, a bank, has come from a need that has been recognized in society. So let's look around Kenya for a minute and say, okay, what are some of these issues that we see that would be pegged on the financial, that look for solutions that an institution like Kingdom Bank would then be able to answer? What are the issues that we see around? I mean, I know that we're gearing towards women empowerment for sure, but then from a wider financial aspect or an overview, what are some of those issues that a bank would then come in directly to answer?
One would be a bank would try to answer the question of in terms of MSMEs, obviously majority of MSMEs are not able to get credit, affordable credit. So a bank would want to answer that question, and we have an answer for that. Also, MSMEs and individuals suffer from lack of knowledge in terms of how to manage their finances and their businesses. That's where we come with the financial literacy, the capacity building that we are doing as a bank. Third, as a bank, would try to answer an issue of providing an avenue for individuals and businesses to transact. Other than the mobile platforms, what other avenues are there available for businesses to transact? By providing accounts, by providing internet banking services, whereby as a bank we have what we call a DigiLife platform.
Okay. So then as we start to answer these questions, do we see that there's progression? And this is really interesting because, you start to provide the solution, things get better. Have we seen that because of those solutions that's being then presented by a bank, that you start to see that some holes then some gaps have started to be filled?
Yes, thank you for that question. When you are coming up with a solution, like when you are coming up with our women banking solution, we had a cohort of women, both internal staff and of course our customers, and we got a lot of insights from them on how a women banking solution would look like. Basically, we were looking at what are the needs of women and what are those pain points of women. So we curated a product around the needs of women. And I'm happy to say we have a women banking proposition that is headed by a women banking manager. And this conversation is at the right time. As a bank, we are focused in terms of how we empower women, and it's a way of life for us.
Okay. Every time one hears of a bank that wants to work in the MSME space, well, my heart gladdens. But every time we think of medium and small enterprises, the focus seems to be in towns. How exactly does the Kingdom Bank work with rural areas? Because farming also falls into that category, and in our rural areas, that is the primary activity that most people are engaged in.
Thank you. Yes. You'll realize that some of our branches are also in the rural areas, like Mtwapa, Mombasa, which also covers a wide area that is rural, was in Gishu, Kisii, Kisumu. And I would say as a bank, we have the agri proposition is geared towards supporting the smallholder farmers, who majorly are women. So we have a program that we run with various partners towards supporting the smallholder farmers. Like we have a program that we are running in Kibwezi for smallholder farmers. And basically majority of the participants are women. So as a bank, we are not just, it's not just talk, we are doing it.
Okay. When you tell me that is something you're involved in, I'm going to ask you now to tell me, what does a successful partner of the bank look like? Let's say in the rural setting. Someone who, just an example, not necessarily a specific person, but somebody who in the rural areas has engaged with the facilities that the bank offers for people who are engaged in farming. The success stories that you have, what do these success stories look like?
The success story would look like this. You support a farmer or a woman back there in the village, maybe to acquire farm inputs, and that woman is able to do farming, and at the end of the farming they're able to get produce, and once they get the produce they're able to sell the produce. Once they sell the produce, the money they get, they invest maybe in terms of it assists them maybe to pay for school fees for their children, to do other investment or cater other needs for the family. So for us that would be success, because we are meeting the need for that smallholder farmer.
There is a niche that many banks have tried to address, and that is the niche of young people who are probably still in tertiary but in institutions like colleges or in the university. Does Kingdom Bank have products that cater for this particular group of individuals?
Yes, thank you. We have a product focused for the youth and our retail banking segment. We know that the youth are the future leaders for tomorrow, and we have a product for them. We have a youthful account that is focused to that segment. As a bank, actually we do have a lot of engagements and forums whereby we're able to talk to youth. As a bank, we organize forums whereby we invite various category of people, and of course nowadays majority of those people that we are getting in those forums are the youth.
Let me ask specifically, what exactly are the benefits of that a student will derive from having such an account with the Kingdom Bank?
One is to have an account that has no monthly charges or ledger fees. That would be good for a student.
It's attractive.
It's attractive for
even
them.
for someone like me who's not a student.
Yes, it's attractive.
Yes.
We also offer the financial literacy to our customers in terms of we are able to assist them in terms of incubation training, in terms of if they want to do business, we train them in terms of business planning. This is something that we do as a bank, whereby we hold MSME forums, train on business. How do you come up with a business plan? How do you run a business? So if a youth become part of Kingdom Bank, they form part of a cohort that is undergoing a training, and this is happening across all our branch networks. It's something that we are having on a monthly basis.
I like what you're saying.
Okay.
This is music to my ears. I mean, the training component when it comes to financing and managing of finances is crucial. Talk a little bit more about it. How do you engage do you engage them through their student unions? Do you engage them, well, how do you get them to take an interest? How do you market this product? And then how do you engage them in the training? Please just walk us through the details.
What you usually do when you're marketing or you are trying to reach a specific target market, first is you have to map out what would be the need for this market segment. Secondly, you have to have the key business people or the key point persons who can assist you in terms of drawing those people to you. So what we do as a bank while we are dealing with the youth is we have some youth leaders that we are working with, and they are the ones who refer customers to us. Point in place is I would give an example of our partnership with one of the Boda Boda associations, whereby we have an opportunity of opening accounts on a semi-annual basis. But what happens is that the association is able to bring the youth together, and as a bank we get an opportunity to go train those youth, and after we train those youth, we're able to open accounts for those youths, majorly who are in the Boda Boda sector. Then we're able to cross-sell to them our Boda Boda product, whereby we are telling them, if you save well with us, we're able to buy for you a Boda Boda. We also encourage them in terms of saving. We have a big problem for the youth, the saving culture. That is something that we also come out clearly and strongly in terms of inculcating a culture of saving.
Okay. Let's go back to, this women's account, and as we come at Faida Dada, as you had mentioned. But then I want to go back to why you decided to focus on women specifically for a particular product, and why now? Why was that an idea that had been come up with?
Why women? I would say as a bank we are quite intentional, and this is something from the leadership perspective. The separating thing is that for us as a bank, the chair of the board is a lady, and it's quite inspiring when you're having a lady as a chair, as you're coming up with a solution. Secondly, by empowering women, there's a thing they say, by empowering women, you empower the nation, you empower the community and the societies. And the role that women play in the society is something that we cannot underplay as an institution, of course, as a society. So the reason for us as a bank to target women and to bank women, we realize that we need to have a dedicated product offering for women that specifically speaks to their need. And that's why we came up with a cohort of people to try and get insights towards this, so that when we are curating a product or a solution, it speaks directly to this target market.
And it could not, and because of what you're saying, it could not then be found in the other pre-existing solutions that were there and say, well, you know what, let's widen these ones and make sure that they can encompass, or rather take on women as well. It needed to be something that stood alone on its own with its own direct solutions?
Yes. Because women are unique in their nature, and they like unique things. That's why we felt that let's give them something that speaks to them in terms of the product offering. Is it the financial need or the non-financial need? That's what we are trying to address as an institution.
So before we go into, we're going to take a break in a short while, but have you found that a lot of women then have been able to latch on to this idea, whereby, you know, if you look maybe not too far or not too long ago, a lot of women, number one, were not banked. A lot of women needed reference from somebody else, be it a spouse or be it a father or whatever, to then be able to come and open an account and, you know, all sorts of other things, as though, you know, you are not...
you didn't have the capacity.
You didn't have the capacity to do this on your own.
Unless somebody held your hand and helped you write.
Or at least said, now I have said they are a human being, they can go ahead, you know. Have you found that some of those barriers have been broken, and that women are actually coming and able to stand, to do their own thing, open their accounts, run their businesses, use this idea that you've come up with to then be able to propel themselves from one to the next step?
True, a lot of barriers, of course, a lot of barriers have been broken over time. And my thinking is that this idea of empowering women in terms of capacity building is one thing that has caused this dramatic shift in terms of how women approach the banking ecosystem. You'd realize that there's a notion that women are better savers, or women are better in terms of financial management. And we are realizing that we are having more women coming to banks to open accounts. Like for us, we are having majority of our customers that we are currently having is, we are having more women coming to us, open accounts and consume our products as an institution.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say that it's not a notion, it's a fact. Women are better, they save better, they manage their resources better. It's not an idea, it's a reality. You only need to look at the role that women play in households before you even get on to the larger economic setups and so forth. Or if you want to, look at even the schools when people then leave secondary school and go to university. Look at how women perform in university. Look at how they perform in the workplace. Yes, these are things which are realities because it's something you can see. You know, if you doubt it, you only need to look at the data and it's available for you to see.
True.
Yes.
Let's take a break and come back and look at how Faida Data actually works, and then see details of how then women can get involved in this and what it's been doing for them really over the last 1 month, for however long it's been, for how long it's been in existence. Yes. So let's take a break. We'll look at weather and traffic and come back and discuss with that. Kevin Mutisia is our guest this hour, and he is the head of micro enterprise and agribusiness at Kingdom Bank, and we're looking at empowering women and this new account that makes sure that women can actually take advantage of all they need when it comes to financial solutions. We'll be back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
windows
sleep inside.
Up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Well. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with Spice FM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 24, highs of 24 in a mostly sunny Nakuru at 18, and it's 18 and partly sunny in Nyeri with highs of 24. 27 will be 23 rather will be the high in a partly sunny Eldoret, currently at 16. It's cloudy at 25 in Mombasa with highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 in Malindi, where it's currently cloudy at 26. 22 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 27, and cloudy conditions at 21 in Kakamega, going to highs of 27. Kampala is sunny at 22 with highs of 26, and Dar es Salaam raining at 24 will go to highs of 30. It is mostly sunny at 17 in Johannesburg with highs of 27, while Mogadishu at 31 is sunny. It'll go to highs of 34, and we'll see highs of 25 in a mostly sunny Addis Ababa, currently at 17. Out into Lagos, it's clear at 27 with highs of 34, and at 24, Kinshasa is cloudy with highs of 32.
Mobile and on radio. Twitter at SpiceFM KE.
It still continues with not too much madness this morning. Traffic is still busy here and there on the Thika Superhighway, but we're seeing traffic coming in from the Eastern Bypass, doing quite the thing, touching on North Airport Road, going towards Outer Ring. Inbound traffic from the Eastern Bypass seems to be settling down now, so we won't have too much of an issue with that. The Pangani Tunnel still with bumper-to-bumper traffic, and on Limuru Road, that has been heavy all morning, and we'll see some activity there as you're trying to get into the city or go towards Chiromo and via Wangari Maathai. So we're keeping an eye on that. Also on Ngong Road, not too busy this morning. Magadi Road also has some traffic as you then try to touch on Langata Road getting towards the CBD, but I think we'll be okay for now. Let's see what happens as we come towards the top of the hour. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Oh, coming in and 26 minutes left in this conversation as we are looking at the role of empowering women, really, and what Kingdom Bank is doing to step in and making sure that that can happen through some financial situations, or rather financial solutions. Kevin Mutisia, who's the head of micro enterprise and agribusiness at Kingdom Bank, is our guest this hour, and we're talking about this particular account that has done just this, and you're looking at, okay, so women have a unique place in this society, obviously. Faidi Dada is saying, okay, we have this account. But exactly how does it work, and why is it different? I mean, would just be account, I go open an account and I can transact and I'm done? Or what is specific about this account that makes it different, that women then essentially can now access?
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's not only an account but a package.
Okay.
Why it's different? One, it's because it's a tired customer classification. We understand that women may be in different seasons or levels in their life cycle, in terms of that student who is currently in school and trying to read, mm-hmm. that mama mboga who is trying to save kidogo kidogo, that woman who is in business and trying to get some working capital, that high net worth woman. So our product proposition is classified based on the woman. at what level are they in? So we have 3 classifications whereby we are saying we have the eaglet account or eaglet package, the eaglet, the eagle package, and the super eagle.
Okay.
To meet at least the 3 customer segments in terms of micro, SME, and high net worth or corporates.
Okay.
Another unique thing about our package is that we have bundled all the women solutions with the insurance offering in terms of personal accident cover for the accounts that we are having, and customers are only required to pay something small. Secondly, our loan solutions are bundled with the health covers, medical covers, whereby also customers also pay something small. Thirdly, we also have the Faidi Dada loan under that package. The Faidi Dada loan is an offering whereby women can get unsecured facilities from us and also secured facilities to meet their needs in terms of working capital needs, asset acquisition, acquisition of property, and so forth. And lastly, what you have been talking about, the financial literacy. Our package, any woman who joins us becomes part of a cohort that is going to undergo financial literacy from now and again. And what we have done as an institution is that we have ensured that all our women customers are having dedicated relationship officers down there at the branch. And the financial literacy happens in 2 levels. One, at a relationship management level, whereby the customer is able, the woman is able to discuss with a relationship manager at the branch level, whereby they are able to have a conversation and they are advised in terms of business and other matters. Secondly, the second level is whereby we organize forums or engagements whereby we bring women and bring other stakeholders who come to give insights on matters that are affecting the society or business that is mainly centered on women. And just to go back on your question when you talked about what has happened in the last 1 month.
Yeah.
But I would say we have created, this conversation has created opportunity for us as an institution to go out there and find opportunities whereby we can speak out more. And one of those avenues is through having partners also who are in this conversation. Recently, we had an engagement with Supermamas, what they are calling mompreneur, whereby they are trying to inspire the women in terms of their finances, their financial literacy and their financial capacity. Secondly, we have found opportunities whereby we are bringing those cohorts together and training quite a number of women. I would say that in the last 1 month, we have found ourselves in opportunities that we have spoken to over 1,000 women, which for us as an institution, that now forms a basis for us to draw business.
Right.
Thank you.
So who can come? This is, I mean, it's interesting because you talk about these 3 tiers for this package, where you say eaglets, eagles, and then the super eagles, of course.
You see, her eyes brighten when she mentioned the super eagle. Yes.
I couldn't help it. You have to excuse me.
You could say it's close to her heart.
Right.
Yes.
So who can, I mean, it would sound strange that I'm asking this question, that who can come, because it's almost as if the doors have been flung open and anybody can come in then and take advantage of this package. Is that true? Or are we still saying that even as an eagle, eaglet, eagle, super eagle, that it's still for certain people? Is it for everybody? Anybody who has, and because there are quite a number, somebody who has never been banked is a woman, right? Somebody who may have had previous financial issues is a woman. Somebody who maybe has not been able to get their finances or other things in order but want to be able to get back. So do you see yourself as somebody who is now offering a solution, or somebody who's saying, okay, even if you've had a little bit of a rough patch here and there, come and let us see what we can do with you? You know, is it a come and let us reason together kind of situation, or is it this is what we have available, see where you fit?
No. Or what we are doing, you are saying that our doors are open, and what we are expecting and what is happening in the ground is that women customers are coming to the bank, and through our dedicated relationship officers at the bank, they are able to know under which category they are able to place the women customer. Of course, the unbanked women would start at the eaglet. And of course, those who are a little bit advanced in terms of finances or in terms of business management would be Eagle. And the high net worth, of course, would be the Super Eagles. Our aim as an institution is to see us grow an eaglet to a Super Eagle. That would be success, because you have handhold this person, done training, offer solution, and at a point in time, they'll come and say, this conversation or where they are, they started through Kingdom Bank.
How would you see that? I mean, we talked about the markers for success. We did, you know, but how would you see that? That somebody who, I mean, for goodness sake, it could be somebody who's running their own business, has never really done anything. It's a keep your money under your mattress kind of situation. And then now to the point whereby I start off as an eaglet and I come and I have a conversation with you because of this Faidi Dada account package. Essentially, I'm able to do 1, 2, 3. What would that look like for you? That you say we have offered this package to women across Kenya and that they have then been able to do 1, 2, 3. What would that look like? That somebody started as an eaglet and finished as a super eagle, or that somebody then now is independent in their financial activities, or that somebody is seeing their business grow, or is it a combination of all of these? What does that look like?
For us, that would be monumental and also exciting, whereby you can have a story as an institution in terms of the social impact that we are having as an institution. If we are able to have that impact, whereby we are saying we are having a portfolio of people who came to us when they had no financial literacy, they had no that financial capacity, but we did all that training. We had held them up to a point whereby they are now financial, financial free, or they're able to manage their finances.
Do you?
Sorry. No, please.
Does this package help women who also might be in, you know, have gone off the financial rails and say, let's come and see how we can help you guide and let's get you back on track?
True. These solutions also caters for all cadres of women. As much as we have done the classification, it is our relationship officers back at the branch network to see how they fit these women. And I know the conversation would go about we're in an economy where maybe we have quite a lot of people who are struggling with the debt financing. So this does not mean that we are not inviting those people. Part of our financial literacy is also on debt management. So we are trying to bring also those women who have gone out of the banking ecosystem, bring them back. They may have gone out of the banking ecosystem because of maybe debt, or they're in an area where they cannot be banked, and that's why we are having digital solutions as a bank to reach those areas, whereby we have mobile platforms, our KB Mobile, an internet platform, a USSD whereby a customer is able to dial *344# and access their account. So it's about bringing women together and offering support.
You know, the thing about banking, and if you look at the statistics about the number of Kenyans who are unbanked, as we say, it means from purely from a marketing position, you have a wide open field that is yet to be harvested. That is my perspective.
True.
Now, this is a question that I consider one of my favorite questions. Whenever we talk of banking and business, we talk about people who perhaps are already adults. Let me ask the question. Does Kingdom Bank have a program that works with schools, primary and secondary? I'll explain to you why I'm saying this. Banking, like insurance in this country, the thresholds of the numbers given our population who are insured or who bank is, in my mind, a factor of a certain absence of understanding of what it is one can benefit from these institutions. Now, the earlier one inculcates in the minds of, say, your future client, the importance of this, just as part of what they get to know. The easier it is for them that when they reach the point where they are now adults, forget the account that parents open for children. Children themselves understanding what it is and how it is that banking is important and what it is that these things are. The idea of saving at a very early age, understanding money, it makes it a lot easier. I say this because when we look at historically, the example I want to give is Japan. Part of the reason why that country has there's a huge stability to have with finances because those guys have a serious saving culture. They save. It's considered just part and parcel. I wouldn't say that saving is part and parcel of our culture. Because when you have a huge population and it saves, it means there is money available for very many other things that you may want. So, does the Kingdom Bank have plans, or does it already have a plan where they partner with learning institutions so that the things that are important and are needful about banking, especially with the Kingdom Bank, is actually inculcated in the minds of our young citizens?
Thank you for that. Actually, we have a unique offering for that segment, the students or the young people, what we are calling the junior accounts. And the junior account is basically for young savers. And this is something that we really focus on as an institution. We work with a lot of institutions, public and private schools, whereby we do a lot of talks with them in terms of the need to save. And what we do as a bank is cross-sell the junior accounts to the parents of these young ones, whereby we are able to tell our customers, if you are having a child, why not open a junior account and you teach them to save something small on a daily basis. And what we do is that once a customer is able to open that junior account, we give them a piggy bank whereby they do save something small, maybe on a daily or a weekly basis, and at the end of a certain duration, they're able to bring that money to the bank and bank, and they come together with the child. So that inculcates that culture of saving from the onset for the children. Also, there is the idea of we have scenarios whereby, as a bank, we attend school functions, whereby we are having schools that bank with us, and we go and make talks and encourage students on the need to save as an important aspect of their life.
Where do you hope this will go in the foreseeable future? I mean, because we're talking about, some of these solutions, months old. What has been the success so far? How have you seen this? And then where do you hope that in the future it will actually go in terms of numbers, in terms of how you're able to capture,
The success so far, I would say, as I had said initially, is we have been getting so many customers that are coming to us under the women proposition. We are having so many partners who are coming to us that are in this space for women. So what we are looking at in the future is to see that Kingdom Bank being a major conversation, I would say we are looking at Kingdom Bank being that bank that is key in terms of women empowerment conversation in the country. So through our women proposition, we are advocating for going out there, talking to the women, offering the financial empowerment in terms of financial capacity building and of course the financial products. But key to us is on the financial capacity building rather than the opening an account. We want first of all to train them, to talk to them, understand them. Then we are able to convince them why they need to join us. And of course, for any financial institution, the point of getting in any financial institution would be an account. And this account is part of a wider package for women.
I think that's interesting that there's focus on really understanding, so it's not just running and saying open account and let's see how we can get deposits in, but that there's an emphasis that is being placed on understanding the different elements of a financial journey, things that you must do, things that you should avoid. And do you think that, I mean, just being one that will push that idea, do you think you see a situation whereby beyond just getting involved in the package, then you have folks who are in society, in communities, who have a basic fundamental understanding of what you should or should not do when it comes to your finances, and then you have a healthier financial community? Even if you now start to open accounts and you do things after that, you're doing that from a position of knowledge and understanding?
That's true. And this can only be won through that conversation of going out there and training. And for us as an institution, how we think we can win this war is, of course, we can't do this alone. We are cognizant of the fact that we have so many other people who are looking at empowering women, NGO organizations and other institutions. So we are trying as much as possible to partner with them, to be part of this conversation, so that it's not only the bank that is doing this, also our partners are doing this, so that as that whole conversation is happening, we are able to draw in people who are willing to join us.
You know, one of the things that sometimes is not understood when people have a bank account and through that bank account they've been able to get a loan is when they find themselves in distress and are unable to service the loan as they should. Now, when you say you have these literacy programs where you educate your customers or would-be customers, what is in that curriculum when you are training them and enabling them to understand banking for what it is and how it benefits them? What are the key components of that particular curriculum of training?
The key components of that curriculum, if I may expound a little bit, is what we are calling the financial literacy. Is wide in terms of the areas that we cover based on the customer segment and the customer need. You know, what you'd train a woman that is high net worth is different from what you'd train a woman that is just starting business. But the main components for our curriculum, of course, would be the business planning bit, the marketing bit, how to handle personal financial management, which is so key. How do you separate business expenses from personal expenses, business income from personal income, issues of debt finance. We also do train on stress management. So it's quite a huge array of areas that we are training, and some of the areas is not only us that we are training, we do invite experts in those areas to assist us in terms of training.
The area that I'm interested in relates to, for instance, in this time when, from the COVID period until now, one of the things that we read the banking sector has been grappling with is debts. Loans, non-performing loans as they are called, loans that are probably, some are limping, some are staggering, some are probably stagnant. What sort of knowledge do you give to, or again, in this same curriculum, to the clients or would-be clients so that they understand from the get-go how it is when they find themselves in a sticky situation, they need to function? Because I say this because when people are unable to pay their debts, they're like a deer in a headlight. They get stuck and then they can't function, and then they don't respond to calls, and then they don't reply to messages. So it's something that can be managed. After all, people who lend money will understand that people will have a problem, and so they understand what a solution can be. What do you do to forestall some of these issues or to mitigate against them?
Of course, what we do when you're having such a conversation is our conversation is geared towards understanding the customer first. For you to offer a solution, even when someone is in distress, is understanding them first. So our curriculum is towards understanding that customer. Do they understand their cash flow? Because for you to service any debt, it's based on cash flows that you are currently getting. Let's say maybe you are paying a loan, an installment of 100,000 per month when times were good. But now you can only afford 30,000. What do you need to do? So we try and educate them and show them, if you find yourself cash flows have reduced, you need to go to to the lender, the bank that has lent to you, if it's Kingdom Bank, and have that conversation in terms of how do I restructure my loan to match the cash flow, the current cash flow that I'm having. Also, you can look at other ways of liquidating debt. We are having, you can have an entity whereby even restructuring may not work, but maybe even initiating an own initiated recovery sale of an asset would even be much better to even rescue the business, whereby maybe you are having, like, let's say 10 assets and 8 are secured by a bank. But there's a scenario whereby by offloading 4, you'd find yourself in a better scenario. So it's just understanding that customer, working with them in terms of what is the best solution in terms of debt management. At times it's a painful process, but it needs to be done.
Interesting. There is the issue again that, let me talk from my lived experience with banking. This training you speak of, I'm still stuck on it. How do you structure it? When someone opens an account, when they've been with you for a while, when they apply for a loan, when the business is growing, how do you segment it over time?
What happens is that there are two ways of how we do the training.
Yes.
One, we do training for existing customers. Those are people who have account with us.
Yeah.
Secondly, we do training for new to bank customers. These are people who we are trying to convince to come to us to bank. We are trying to bank them. So for this training, the capacity building, for customers who are part of Kingdom Bank, we usually do MSME forums in our branch networks, whereby it's a mixture of both new and existing customers. So we have a motto whereby we say, tag a friend and you tag another friend.
Yeah.
So if we have called you for that conversation in terms of training, we're expecting you come with another friend who is not part of Kingdom Bank, if you are one of our customers, so that we can have that conversation together.
Excellent.
If you were to speak to the customer today, a potential customer, one who's already there, what were the things that you would say today to them, Kevin?
I would say Kingdom Bank is one of the fastest growing brand, and we are offering a suite of financial solutions in terms of attractive investment solutions, that is fixed and call deposit rates, way up to around 15%. I would also tell customers that we are offering attractive and competitive loan solutions that are well priced in the market. I would also tell them that we have all our products are complemented by our digital banking channels, whereby one of the unique digital banking channels is what we call a KBID, whereby a customer, a woman who is a supplier or a contractor, is able to go online into the platform and get a bid bond within minutes, which is not something that is easy to find out there. I would also say to the women out there is that as a bank, for you to join us, you don't need a lot of things. It's just your ID and KRA PIN, open an account, and we start this conversation. Visit all our 20 branches, and I'm sure we are having dedicated personnel who are willing to serve you.
It's great to have this conversation in terms of solutions of what what is available, what will be available in the future. Kevin, thank you for coming and opening up a lot of that for us today, and then options whereby folks can actually come down and have conversations with you. Isn't that how the world is changing now? That it's not what we offer, but come down and have a conversation with us and let us see what we can actually do with you, what we can do for you, and actually start to change the conversation around some of these things. Thanks for being in the Situation Room this morning. Kevin Mutisia is the head of micro enterprise and agribusiness at Kingdom Bank. He's been our guest this hour, looking at some of those solutions towards empowering and designing financial and non-financial solutions for today and tomorrow. That's been our conversation this hour. Kenya's biggest conversation continues after this, coming into more conversations around legal issues. Good morning. It is 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that will reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba. Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
windows
sleep inside.
Up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Well. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyan.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes?
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom? I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, you know, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can never miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives the real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nduthai, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again.
Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, it's a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and what does traffic look like in the city today? It's been busy through the morning, but has not been anything too crazy. Coming off of Langata Road today, a little bit of that, but nothing too bad. I think we can handle it, can't we? Yeah, we can. So it looks like a lot of folks staying off the roads this morning. Let's keep an eye. We're coming out of traffic hour in no time now. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on X hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, getting into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. And wherever you're tuning in from, Karibu once again. All right, we're having a legal conversation. It is Justice Thursday after all. And our guest is here. Kefa Ojijo is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, managing partner at Ojijo Senaji and Associates Advocates. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
So, emerging legal trends, those are some things that, some buzzwords that have already been used here and there. People are talking about them. And employee discipline or indiscipline. What can you do? What can you not do? What can I be suspended or not suspended for? Termination, dismissal. What are my rights? There are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are buzzing. There's a lot of chatter around that. And those are some of the things that we'll be delving into today. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room, Wakili. Good to have you here. Before we turn up the heat a little bit, City's going to. It's like the proverbial frog in the warmer of.
roasted.
Oh no! At least we'll say hello. And City has a proper way of saying hello with a proverb. And this week they're from the Republic of Congo.
Yes, otherwise known as Congo Brazzaville.
Mm-hmm.
Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail. Let me tell you now how they would say it in their language. Zela zela, mokomboso azanga mokila. Not that I know what means what where, but there it is. Because of waiting too long, the gorilla lost its tail. Yes.
Interesting. It is interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
What does that mean to you? How would you unfold that?
In real perspective, I think I'll put that in a situation that certain fact or certain actions required to be dealt with in a prompt manner, so that the more we delay, the more we lose touch with it, and the more the impact become less felt to the people, and probably we shall have lost an opportunity. So I feel it requires people to act timely and promptly on situations as required.
Indeed. Do it now. While the opportunity presents
itself. No, that is perfect. You see, the beauty of asking for someone's interpretation, it can't be wrong. Because that is how you resonate with the proverb. So thank you. Yes.
Okay.
You need to respond to things expeditiously. Yes.
Well done.
No procrastinating.
Ngoja umiza watu.
Bas.
That's what they say.
Procrastination. Hey,
yes.
That theme. That's a story for another day.
It is a story for another day.
Yeah. Procrastination. Let's talk about it tomorrow.
Yes, we shall.
Okay. So, all right. Emerging trends. We're looking at a lot of stuff happening in the employment space, right? Yes. Wakili, many issues over time. Indiscipline, discipline, termination, not to be terminated, dismissal, what it actually means, what can or can you not do according to the law of employment in the country. Let's just start off with some of these things. What would you say is the situation now in terms of understanding what employees can do from an employee perspective, and then what is then demanded of employees from an employer's perspective?
You know, when I was driving here, I was just talking to my client, my governor for Homa Bay, and she was asking me now, what do they do with their doctors? Because these people seem to be a thorn in the flesh for them. I mean, they're not going back, they're not settling down, and they feel, the health sector is deteriorating further and further. And now they're asking, what are we going to do? I mean, do we fire them right now? Do we stop their salary? What do we do? I think those are some of the things we are going to discuss, because it is unfortunate that there's a lot happening in this country right now. Strikes all over, and then this I think because of the economy, there's a lot of redundancy, people being laid off, right, left and center. So there's a lot of challenges. So actually what we have decided to do is that we have even decided to invite the employers and the HR practitioners and the in-house counsel for a training which we are having tomorrow, led by the Honorable Lady Justice Lynette Ndolo and myself and other practitioners, so that we can just give people insight at this point of time. What are the emerging legal trends in which you can employ to manage your employees in terms of disciplining them, in terms of negotiating, in terms of CBAs, in terms of termination? How are you supposed to do all these processes? We know what the law says, but we also know the trends that comes with changes in situations. So those are some of the issues that we've invited employers to discuss tomorrow. And I think it is now high time that we started discussing them, because employers also have a lot of challenges. The high cost of living, taxes all over in this regime, they cannot maintain their employee ratio. At some point they'll want to let go of some, but how do you do it legally? Also, how do you send off your employees within the law, or how do you make them understand that now you cannot meet the standards as an employer as a result of this? So there's a lot coming up, but there are legal trends in which has been defined by the recent cases and the directives which have been given by courts of law, the Employment and Labor Relations Court, on how now you can involve or you can discuss the issues of termination, dismissal, redundancy with your employees. One of the most interesting is a precedent we set when we were handling the case of, I don't know if you guys remember when we had a strike by the pilots for KQ. Yeah, that was in 2022. One of the precedent was set there where the court, when we approached the court agreed that at some point you may vary the CBA. Even if the CBA had been registered, but parties can agree to accept certain critical elements and forgo others, you may vary the CBA. That has not been the norm. The norm has always been, once a CBA is registered, it's a binding document as it is, and you cannot vary it. That is what even the doctors are holding on right now. Because this was the position we agreed in 2017, we are not giving up until it is fully implemented. So there are new trends that now they need to understand, and then the employers and even the unions need to understand how they can approach this system in settling the issues of trade disputes or issues arising from terminations and things like that between employers and employees.
To whom is benefit then handed to with these new trends? I'm just going to go off what you were saying just now, that it is possible, for example, to vary the boundaries of a CBA. It is upon this CBA that folks would have marked a number of things for the next 5 years, 4 years, however long. So in this case, we're looking at 2017 to 2021, 4 years, right? And it is upon this thing that you promised within these boundaries that you're going to operate. So are we saying that one of the trends now, according to the judicial system is that it is possible to then vary some of these things. Is it possible that can you do that within the law and still remain legally sound?
You see, CBAs, employers and employees are party. Their engagement are governed by the contract of engagement they have. CBAs are agreement between people, which are then now registered to bind among themselves. Now, when parties therefore again meet and have a sound reasoning, and they feel that there are certain elements that we cannot implement at this point, but maybe we can give you a return to work formula on how we can implement the critical issues you want, but please, you can also let forgo a few, which we feel right now may not be practical for us to implement. For instance, of course, the government is perpetual, and we do not expect, because the old regime entered into this, and then new regime will come with new terms, it should be binding. But then there will be situations where the governor may say, look, right now we feel that because of the high cost of living, ideally, we agreed that the interns should be paid 200,000, but right now we can offer 150,000. But however, we are going to allow you guys to pursue postgraduate education at a full pay. You see, you're already now reducing a certain element of the CBA, but also giving a return to work formula, which they're getting in. So it is also a new system, and that is why even Justice Byram agreed, provided an opportunity for them and told them, look, this thing, yes, it was rigid, it cannot be rigid. Can you guys just talk and agree on a return formula? And some things can be forgo, or something can be postponed upon implementation. So those are the trends. Initially, remember, even before this, when we were dealing, remember in 2016, there was an issue when we were dealing with the issue for the tea growers. They also had a CBA. But at that point, the court was clear on their position that CBA terms are binding, and you are not going to negotiate it. The parties were all, of sound mind. There was no coercion, there was no undue influence. They all agreed on this. This was the point. So we are not going to, right now, try to vary certain aspect of it. But with time, people have understood that things change. Society change. I mean, the cost of living is up, the taxes, there's a lot. This country is crying to be broke. I don't know if it is. So there's a lot that probably may not be implemented at the same time. So that is why the court decided to, I think, probably issue such a ruling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, because we're going legally here, it doesn't matter who the parties are, whether it's two private parties, whether it's government or somebody else. Because I think some of the things CT says all the time is that situations like these pose an amazing opportunity for you to understand then what the law then provides, and robust conversation or discussion then also then creates an opportunity for understanding, right? So yes, there's a binding agreement. One party chose for whatever reason not to stick by it, and then the discussions. Unfortunately, in this case, one party is the employer. Okay? At what point can they decide, like we have seen, that we can decide to just get rid of you if we have a binding agreement, we've not stuck to it, there's been a bit of irritation here and there, until one party says, well, we're not coming to work because these are the requirements under which we would work. At what point can the employer say, we will then get rid of you if you're not ready to work?
Remember, an employer cannot terminate the contract of service of an employee because they are striking. Striking is a constitutional right under Article 41 for the employees to strike. The same way even employers also have a right of lockout. You see, so all of them have this labor relations right. So you cannot therefore send an employee home because they're striking. That is a right. And remember that strikes are protected unless it is declared by the court as unprotected strike. And on which when it's declared by court as unprotected strike, you can still not proceed to terminate them. You need to seek leave of court in terminating them. So it is hard, more so when employees now are raising or are striking on an issue that is already a legally binding document. It will be hard for you to terminate them. The only option an employer will have at that point probably will be to seek leave on court on how to deal with this matter, which I have seen them doing. I have seen them going back and forth, in court for determination on this. Because remember, the Employment Act really protects the interest of the employee, and that is why the burden of proof is always given on the employer. And it only provides instances in which termination can be, executed upon employee.
Mm-hmm.
It provides in section 35 that you can only terminate on a normal, misconduct of the employee through what we call termination on notice or leave in payment.
Mm-hmm.
And on redundancy. Remember, redundancy, it's where now it's at not fault of the employee. It is at the initiative of the employer. But now, because of the situation, the employer cannot sustain the services of employee anymore. He cannot sustain them. And there's procedure in which employer must demonstrate that to everyone. Because even if you use, your tricks or malicious procedures to terminate this person in disguise of redundancy, he will still be reinstated, or however he will be compensated for that. So there are procedures required for that. So it will be hard for an employer to enforce a termination on an employee arising from a strike which is for the benefit or as a result of a legally binding document, not because of gross misconduct, not because of incapacity, not because of incompetence of the employee, but because of a document which was signed by the parties and which has become part of the contract. So that it will be hard for them.
You say it is hard.
Yes.
Meaning it is not impossible.
It is not impossible.
So under what circumstances would it be possible?
The only circumstance now it will be possible is when the employer has demonstrated that they have met the requirements or their end of bargain as per the CBA, and the employees have not met theirs, or the employees are bringing in new demands. And at that point now, you need leave of court for you to enforce that. Because unless the employees either introducing new terms or the employees are not willing to continue with work even after the employer have met the terms, then the employee, unless now they agree with the employer cannot then move to terminate the employee on that ground. But they can only terminate the employee if they feel the employee is now introducing new terms or they have met their end of bargain, but the employee is still adamant. And also remember, they'll still need the leave of court to do that.
Something you mentioned, which I found particularly interesting.
Yes.
When we were talking about the strike, you talked about an unprotected strike and a protected strike.
Yes.
How on earth does a strike become unprotected?
Now, remember, strike is a right of employee.
Yes.
They can strike in time. And remember, strike must be a group of employees. So if one person you decide to undermine, that is not a strike.
No, that one you're absconding duty.
That is your absconding duty. That's your own. So when a community or when a group of employees are decided now, we are not going to work, we are suspending work to put pressure on the employer to give in to certain demands which we feel are necessary or are part of our contract, then now there is a strike. That is a right which is given to them, and it does not require notice unless there's a policy document in the institution on the procedure, not limiting the strike but giving the procedure within how it should happen in the institution. Then that policy should be followed. But where employer has moved the court to confirm that these people indeed are striking on matters which we have met as the employer, as per the contract or as per our policy document, and the court has declared that strike unprotected or unlawful, and workers should return to work, and they still continue with their strike, then now that strike now become unprotected. In other words, it is not now lawful within the eyes of the law.
Is the current doctor strike protected or unprotected?
It is protected.
It is protected?
It is protected.
One of the issues that you've talked about, again, emerging now, is that they've been asked to return to work. That has happened several times.
Yes.
The head of public service, Felix Koske, has said return to work.
Yes.
Governors from across counties have said return to work.
Yes.
The CS, or else. The CS, Ministry of Health, has said return to work. That's one of the things that you mentioned.
Yes.
They've said return to work, and they've still, because we've had a conversation and we want to do 1, 2, 3, return to work.
Yes.
They've not returned to work. Does that remove the protection of the strike?
No. It is not the cabinet secretary to declare a strike unprotected or this government. Sometimes I look at them. These people also are drunk with power. I think too much power, and then they lose the focus. This is a problem you're facing in this country. You see, these people did not just wake up and then say, you know what, we are striking. These people have been patient from 2017. And I've gone through those letters because I'm also part of that team. I've gone through the letters, the notices they had sent to the ministry. Almost 15 of them, requesting the ministry, can we have a sit-up, and agreed on these things, on these issues, you see, the basic issues. And then they feel, in every CBA, now the most interesting part is, in every CBA, there's a critical, or the heart of a CBA, certain critical issues that you cannot rule out when you're settling. And so when we sit down, and you want to rule out the critical issues, and then deal with other issues, and you want these people to go back to work, then I think also you're not being real, or you're not being serious. I have heard the doctors, I have heard what the government is saying. The doctors have made it clear, give us a reasonable return to work formula.
That's it.
That is it. Give us a reasonable return to work formula. We are not asking you to implement all these things at once, you see, but give us a reasonable return to work formula. What are you going to do between now and 2 years? In the next 2 years, what are you dealing with? Then what are you tell us how you are going to spread it. Don't just hold it and say, we will deal with it later. I mean, that is not being, fair. That's not being fair. That's not, negotiating in good faith. I have a problem in the way this government is approaching issues, more so when it comes to issues of professionals or issues of their employees. It is a dictatorial system. You either do it or else. Do it or else. Okay, suppose all doctors now say, we are not going to work. We are going to sit at home and then let you. I've heard them saying they'll go and hire some doctors from where? Where are they going to get all the doctors from where? Now they can't pay this one 200,000. Those one, how much are they going to pay them? You see, so there are certain things. I think intimidation is old school. It cannot work in this country and this era right now. The sooner the government realize that they need to sit down and understand the situation, because after the doctors, the nurses here, the laboratory, whatever, they will be clinical officers. They're all over. I mean, teachers will start coming out. Will you suspend everyone? You go. We are going to look for new workforce from Uganda or from Tanzania. It cannot work. So it's a problem we have. The government, who is the big brother, who should be holding the higher responsibility, has decided not to. And so the people who are seeking help, or who want a CBA which was signed or which was ratified by all these parties, are now feeling that it's going to be the same system forever. So even the future doctors will not be safe anymore.
Let's take a break and come back and talk about the fact that I think it's more than just intimidation, because we've seen from reports that we've read this morning and even conversations that were had yesterday, is that it's beyond intimidation. Is that there are folks who've actually received termination letters, and the reasons why they've been terminated is what they're calling absconding duty, or one or two other things that have been claimed as the reasons why. So let's come back and look at some of those. We'll take a break and see what's happening with weather and traffic on the roads this morning, and then we'll continue with this conversation. Kefo Jijo is Wakili, our guest for Justice Thursday this morning, and we're looking at some of those things concerning strikes and redundancies and terminations. What are your rights or not rights? Looking at the doctors' strike as a point of reference. We'll come back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start the weather with SpiceFM.
And partly sunny conditions, going to highs of 24 in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 24 in a partly sunny Nakuru. And after the rain, it's 18 and partly sunny in Nyeri with highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 23 in a partly sunny Eldoret at 16. Mombasa's cloudy at 25 with highs of 29, and we'll see cloudy conditions in Malindi going to highs of 29. It's 22 and partly sunny in Kisumu, and 21 and partly cloudy in Kakamega. Kampala is sunny at 22 with highs of 26, while the rain continues in Dar es Salaam at 24. We'll see highs of 30. Johannesburg is sunny at 17 with highs of 27, and it's mostly sunny at 31 in Mogadishu. It's 17 and sunny in Addis Ababa, while Lagos is clear at 27. Kinshasa is cloudy at 24. It's 25 and sunny Thursday afternoon in Beijing, and Paris is 2 degrees and partly sunny, while New York is 5 degrees and cloudy. We'll round things out. London is 5 degrees and cloudy. New York 9 degrees and mostly clear. Coming into Thursday, highs of 14 and lows of 5.
Spice up your life.
All right, it hasn't been too difficult of a Thursday with traffic around the city this morning. I think we're done with what was going on the Thika Superhighway coming into the CBD. And also Limuru Road, that was quite busy earlier, seems to have opened up quite some as well. Coming in from the eastern, western, northern or southern parts of the city, I think we'll be all right. It's again a warning out when you see pools of water. Don't get in if you're not sure of its depth, and even if you are, you want to be careful. Let's see how it pans out through the day. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
28 minutes to 10 o'clock, and our conversation continues this morning, this Justice Thursday, and looking at some of the legalities around, or illegalities, around terminations, redundancies, what would be the situation with what we're talking about concerning the ongoing doctor strike and some of the things that were said or not said yesterday. Our guest this hour is Kefa Ojijo, an advocate of the High Court, and we're looking at some of these strike issues. So, based on some of the things that you said, Wakili,
yes,
we have seen, after conversations yesterday,
yes,
and reports today,
yes,
that regardless of the legality or illegality that you speak of,
yes,
termination notices have been given to some doctors around the country.
They're null and void. I think they're misinformed.
Who?
The governors. They need to read their law properly. They need to go back and read the Employment Act. That's not how you terminate employees when they're on strike. You see, this hurry of all those are just intimidation. That's why I'm saying there are some showed intimidation that will really, I don't know, will really embarrass them at a later date, because I can tell you for sure they will be reinstated. They will be reinstated. That I can tell you for sure. They will be reinstated. You see, doctors are not striking on things of illegality. Doctors have invoked a strike based on a registered CBA which is binding, on a document which is binding. Remember, this document was also given timeline of its implementation. The timeline is lapsing. It has not been implemented. The only tool an employee is given in such a situation is strike. You see? And until such a time that the now courts declare that strike to be unprotected, then they can take such a decision. The court has not pronounced itself on that yet. The court told them, still negotiate. And when you're negotiating, do not come with terms. You know, this idea when people are going to negotiate, they already have conditions. We are not going to discuss this. We are not going to discuss this. This is what we are going to discuss. What type of negotiation is that? The court told them a clear position. You cannot have a condition in when parties are negotiating in a table. That is not negotiations. Those are terms. You are giving people terms. Can you guys agree and see a way in which you are going to probably implement the CBA? The courts understand that it may not be implemented all at once, but can you give a clear return to work formula, which is reasonable, which even when presented before the court can see and say, ideally, this is reasonable. But they have refused. They're just saying we don't have. Now, each other now throwing responsibility to the county government is throwing it to the national government. The national government is not throwing it to the county government. You see, if I were the one of the governors, or maybe let me say the it's called the COG for the governors.
Yes, Council of Governors Chair.
Yes, the chair of the Council of Governors. If I was the chair of the Council of Governors, probably I would call my colleagues and sit down and say, you know what we need to do, let us map out our responsibility in the CBA, because the CBA cuts between both the national and the county government. Let's map out our responsibility in the CBA. Let us present our formula on our responsibility, because the national government seems like they don't care, they're not going to do anything. They have said, the president stood and said, we don't have money. All of them are now singing to that. We don't have money, period. So if we were the governors, because the most, the worst hit places are the counties. That is where the doctors work. Doctors are employee of the counties, Map out your responsibility and then provide a return to work formula on your responsibility to the doctors and tell them this is what we can provide as us. For the national government, we cannot do anything because this is their position. Then the doctors decide to do, they can now decide what to do with that, so long as it's reasonable and it's presentable. But if they're also now singing the same tune that the national government is singing and telling these people, you know what, there's no money, even as we don't have. If the national government doesn't have that money, even as we do not have it. So what do? You come to work or we are sending you home. I mean, that cannot stand. Those termination letters are in vain. They will not be enforced.
Okay, what happens when the timelines for a CB expires?
When a timelines of a CB expires, there are two options. It can be extended by the mutual consent of the parties, or two, the parties can register a fresh CBA on the same. So that is how it is cured. When it is expired, then it's deemed out of effect. You cannot claim it, but the parties can have a leeway by mutual consent to extend it or register a fresh one. And remember, by the way, when you register a fresh one, you are now allowed to introduce new terms or to vary some of the terms which was existing in the old CBA.
Which tells me that it would be in the government's interest if it expired.
Probably that's what they're buying. But see, doctors also know, that's why they're saying then we're not working. So let it expire and let people die.
It's a bit harsh, no?
A little harsh, but that's the reality where we are. I think you've been seeing on media, how people are suffering in the hospital. There are no doctors to attend to them, you see. But also, the politicians or the people who have the responsibility to do that also do not care, because them, they can afford any type of medication they wish, whether here or abroad. So they do not care. But what about the common mwananchi there? People are suffering because of the doctors, and that is why I'm telling the higher responsibility falls on the government as the big brother, as they need to provide a way. They need to have a discussion with these people. They have, in terms of the hierarchy of the power of arms, they hold it. They can have a conversation with these people. They have a right. They have the means to provide a return to work formula. Right now, I heard they want to purchase a new presidential jet.
It's in the paper.
Yeah, they want to purchase a new presidential jet.
The old one is broken.
The old one is broken.
No, they say it's old.
Yes, they say it's old.
And I said this morning that we have aircrafts that flew in 1945, which are still flying to date.
Can you imagine? And they can't pay doctors 200,000.
Aircrafts are like tractors. Those things can live forever.
I know. They were built in 70s, in 80s, you see. And they can't pay doctors 200,000. What are our priorities?
There's this larger discussion I'm seeing here, because whatever we are seeing here will set a precedent.
Yes.
Now, if we look at the discussions around it, it's a one-way discussion from what we see. Meaning, the government has demands which they want the doctors to accept.
Yes.
Okay? And it is clear they are not going to accept it, from what I've observed as well.
Yes.
Now, if I look at the effect of what we're calling the economic downturn that we have in this country, where employers are letting people go, we are looking at businesses shutting down. Now, in circumstances of that nature, when businesses are in distress, people will be let go of.
Yes.
And it is never a pleasant thing when someone is let go of.
Exactly.
Because if there isn't work in one industry, it means if there are similar industries, they will also not have work, because it is the same industry.
Exactly.
What then should the legal thinking be in such instances for an employer and for an employee?
We have written opinions and proposals, even to the government in the ongoing strike. I personally have. I have met with the team of the KMPDU union leaders, and we have discussed this matter in depth with them. You see, all these people live in this country. All these people are aware of the times in which we are living them. And no one is so unreasonable that is coming on the table and saying implement it all. For instance, they are saying just deal with the critical part of the CBA and give us a proper, reasonable return to work formula. When we send it to the government side, they don't address it. Tomorrow you hear one of them in a funeral or somewhere in a rally. Already in her own decision, she has made a decision without consultation what is going to happen. We just hear it, or the doctors just hear it from a funeral. It is a bad example we are setting even to employers in the private sectors. It's a bad example we are setting even to future leaders who will take the position, because then it will be a position. People will have this mentality in this country that you just decide what to do. There are no regulations, there are no rules, there are nothing. This is our position and that's it. You do what you can do. So it is a problem. And unless the government, I wish the government will come with a proper proposal and put on the table that this is what we have. What is your say on it? I wish they would have done that.
There's an individual within government called the Attorney General. Is he not the advisor of the government?
But that guy has been crying left, right, and center that he's not been consulted in anything. He's on record saying that the government sidelined him in everything. He's never consulted. The government wants to consult people like Sudi and the rest they have around. So he's never consulted. The AG has been rendered the most useless office in this country so far in this regime.
By whom?
By the government. There are no opinions from AG you can see. There is nothing. I think this guy, ever since maybe he was appointed to that office, probably maybe has never even done any opinion to the state, because they do not even involve him in anything. The other day was before the Senate committee. You heard him what he was saying. That even he was not involved in this housing levy bill, nothing, he had no idea about it, he just saw it there.
That's damning, isn't it? Because
now that is your country.
he is the advisor.
He is the advisor
to the government.
Yes. And the person to be advised had decided, I don't need your advice. Just keep it to yourself. What do you do? What do you do?
See, I brought this up because under the circumstances we are in, one would have very much wanted to know what the AG has advised on this particular matter, because after all, it is his legal advice that would follow the fulcrum on which the government could act.
You have seen those meetings. Have you even seen a representative AG in those meetings? Nothing. You've only seen the Minister of Health. You've only seen Moses Kuria and other people. Not even a representative from the AG.
Service,
Nothing from the representative AG. So even wonder, okay, fine. Suppose even guys were now to deal on the legal issue or the aspect in terms of bargaining. How are you going to do it? You see, the office of AG has never been involved in this process. And not only this, they have come out, there's an outcry from that office. They've come out to say that they are not involved in most critical matters involving the government or involving the state with other countries. So I don't know. That is the arrangement. I do not know. The person you advise do not want your advice, as there's nothing you can do about it.
How does this then explain what, if we look at, because the truth of the matter is that when you look at a workforce of a nation and you compare it to what is happening with the doctor's strike, this is actually a very small percentage of people who are dealing with a human resource problem right now. How does this then play out for the rest of the country? Folks who would be in a similar situation, whereby you're dealing with what you could be dismissed on, terminated for. How do you negotiate with the employer? You said that the Labour and Relations Court, Employee Relations Court, actually does then try to really protect the employee. But here we are seeing that it's possible for somebody to essentially, bend you. How then can you ensure that you then as an employee are protected when it comes to certain things which you are viewing in right?
Now, the Employment Act, if you look at Section 35 all the way to Section 40, provide the rights of an employee. What the courts will always do, the courts are seen as the first remedy for enforcement of the rights of employees. For instance, let me just use this now, this common scenario. I've been told there are certain letters which have been issued for termination.
Yes, they are.
The first point of break will be to the Employment and Labour Relations Courts or to the Labour Officer. I know Labour Officer cannot do anything, so they'll go to the Employment and Labour Relations Court. And it will be the interpretation of that termination letter or dismissal letter. Does it meet the threshold set in Section 35 or in Section 43 of the Employment Act? When the court will interpret and find it does not meet the threshold, the court has certain responsibilities or certain ways in which can then provide a direction on that, either through reinstatement or through what we call damages for termination for this person. In other words, you'll be computing this amount up to the time we are expecting this person to be on a retirement form. You see, so those are some of the rights employees do have. But also remember that this is a point, this is a relationship. It is based on a contract more than the legalities in it. So however parties will agree, so long as it's legal and so long as there is no elements of undue influence, then the court will adopt that. So if the employer and employee can move the court and say, look, we have presented this, and the employee says we have presented this, the court is then given the opportunity to interpret and assess what then amounts to reasonability. If the court says that what the employer has presented before me is reasonable to work with now, then the court now will provide direction. And should the employee now not comply with that, then the termination letters will now be deemed to be effective and they will not be protected by the court. But if that has not been presented before the court, and if the court has not declared that, then all these letters being issued are in vain.
What are grounds for dismissal? What are grounds for dismissal that can then be accepted regardless of what situation is ensuing at the moment?
Remember, dismissal, ideally the act anticipated as summary dismissal. Summary dismissal is only effected in extreme grounds, what we call gross misconduct, not just a misconduct, on gross misconduct. You see, gross misconduct, for instance, if right now maybe your junior just shows up here, and then start throwing, huge abuses at you, hurling huge abuses and not complying with anything you're saying, or shows up here drunk and throwing zone or disturbing everyone. Those are not just misconducts, those are now gross misconduct. So therefore, the law anticipates in gross misconduct, you can therefore enforce what we call summary dismissal. The advantage of summary dismissal is, number one, you will not be required to give a notice. Or if you give a notice, it may not be a complete notice as anticipated in the law or in the contract. So those are the grounds in which you can then invoke summary dismissal.
Can you appeal a summary dismissal?
Yes. Every termination can be appealed and can be challenged. Remember, all these processes, every termination requires what we call a disciplinary procedure. The employee must be given a chance, you see, to defend herself in presence of someone, either a fellow employee or someone who is according her hearing there, to defend herself. Then after the decision has been made, he or she also must be given another opportunity again to appeal on that decision. So however, whether it's on a summary dismissal, whether it's on a termination, whether it's on a redundancy, everyone must be given an opportunity to be heard and to appeal on that. So it is a process. You cannot just decide to just throw letters of termination to them and then they go. And remember, for this one also, it's the reason why it is not the undoing, it is not a misconduct from the employees. The employees are demanding an execution of a valid document signed or executed by both parties. Yes.
One of the things that we are looking at today is that there was a 19-point agenda that needed to then be fulfilled, and this is what was being discussed by the doctors as well as government. So there's 19 issues raised by them, and we've seen that now 18 of those have been discussed. We don't know if they've been agreed upon and then been going to be implemented as is. They've been discussed, right? The 19th one is the issue of intern doctors and what is going to happen. You talk about trends, and that's where we started, whereby now elements of a CBA then can be re-looked at, revisited, and said, okay, guys, can we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Those are trends that we've seen because of some of the precedents that have been set by some of the cases that you mentioned, whereby we said, okay, this is what is happening in different jurisdictions. This has happened in Kenya at some level, whereby we can say, because of the current situation, let's tinker with this thing a little bit and see a situation where everybody at least will go home happy, right? So it's possible that that be done. But in this case, where there is a complete refusal to deal with that because of historical issues, that has been cited as well. In an event where the 18 of the 19 issues have been discussed and potentially or more or less agreed upon, and this one stickler, this one issue, the 19th one, has then not been addressed, would you then be able to say that the CBA, we want to see how this 119th issue would be the one that would see how we can play around with the CBA? Can you do that?
Remember, number one, it's not the duty of the employer to decide what is being implemented at CBA and what is not being implemented at the CBA.
But they're discussing both of them.
They're discussing both of them.
Yeah.
And as I told you before, remember, every CBA has a critical, or what we call the heart of that agreement for the parties. If we say that the substantive issue from all these issues is issue number 7, this is the most important issue we want to discuss, and then you discuss issue number 8, 10, 11 and 15, you have not discussed the heart of the CBA which they want to discuss. And it is not upon you to decide that now we have discussed 18, one has not been discussed, so we are done. Now you guys are just joking, you're not serious. It's not upon you to decide that. Where you feel as the employer that you have given your best, or you have discussed the critical issues which you feel should be as a start implementation, then you present those issues before the court and say, this is what we have discussed and what we have issued, and this is what they are saying about it. We feel that we have given a reasonable proposal of implementation of the CBA. Then the courts decide. It's not upon you to decide now we have given reasonable. If you don't want, you go home. No. And it's not upon you to decide what you're discussing and what you're not discussing. That is why the court say you cannot come with conditions in discussion. You see, just come and discuss the whole situation. Give a reasonable return to work formula where every party feel comfortable. If doctor says the 18 you're giving us is not important, give us a proposal in this one. Why will one issue become a serious threat if you can discuss it?
So does that give rise to speculation that there's just an I don't want to deal with this issue as opposed to I am unable to deal with this issue?
Most likely. You see, unless they demonstrate why they are unable to deal with it, these things must be practical and reasonable. Every person can see that, look, you're asking, maybe you're asking for 500,000. Look at our budget which has been allocated to us right now. This is what we have. If we give you 500,000, we are not going to meet A, B, C, D, which you have also allocated. So we cannot give that. Right now, what we can afford is 200,000. It's practical, it's reasonable, it's seeable. You see, but if you just say we are not going to discuss it, we are only discussing these ones. If you're not willing to discuss them, you just go. We are done. That is not now having good faith in discussion or implementation of CBA. Yeah.
One of the things that seem to be in my mind a sticking point, it's something we've discussed here at great length, is what seems to be the inability of political leaders to simply speak the truth about an issue and to address it as it actually is, so that the issue at hand is clear. It's not, there's nothing obfuscating about it. It's something you can see. And yet, when the matter is brought to be discussed by the parties concerned, what is being discussed seems to be fairly far removed from what actually ought to be discussed.
One of the tragedies for this country is that we do not know where to stop PR as politicians, and we're now to implement the reality or deal with issues there. I think our PR as politicians goes way beyond what is required, and that is why they lose the point. See, when you're campaigning, you can do a lot of PR and tell people, that's fine, no one is following you. But when real issues are presented before you, can't play it anymore. See, so the diversion tactics, the theatrics of missing the point and blowing it or diverting it to something else has been the norm. You see,
How many days right now? Ever since the doctor started strike?
30 what?
Yes.
3 days? Yes.
44 now.
44 now?
Yeah.
Okay. We're in the 44th day of strike. What has happened? For 44, I mean, it tells you the lack of seriousness. Did they not know that there will be no doctors in hospital? Did they not know that people will be suffering? Did they not know that, they will be grounded in terms of medical operation? They knew this. But how they handle it? Threats, stories, they see this not working, they look for this, they look for it, instead of going to the real issues. Doctors are not interested in what you say in burials or side. Sit them down and say, look, I've heard you, this is what we have, this is the reality of what we have, this is the position. If you're telling doctors that the government is broke, we don't have money, and you've already aligned the list of CAS you're going to employ. One of them you're going to pay over 780,000
per month.
That is devoid of the allowances and everything. Over $1 million plus one person. You have aligned the list. You've aligned the list of the things you want to do. You are building houses. You see, it's important to build houses right now. Like Kenyans do not have places to live. Now we went to hire a new jet for you. I mean, it is not being real. That is why I'm telling you, sit down and tell these people, look, even us, we've cut costs in this because we can't afford. This is what we can do. But if you're telling them we don't have money and they see the things you're doing, those are the priority for yourself, then you're also not becoming serious. I think every nation that has ever thrived has given the best to its, medical sectors. You see, health is one of the fundamentals of every nation that has ever thrived.
It's actually a human right.
Yes, it is a human right. It is a basic need. You see, those are the things we were fighting with at the independence. Yes.
Right.
You see, so up to now, look at where we are. As we want choppers, as we want, more offices, but our health is deteriorating.
Health is, I think it's got to the point where it's on its knees. Where do you see this going in the next couple of days? I think they're critical in terms of a decision that will be made. And when it comes to the law, when it comes to human resource elements, when it comes to what politics we want to play around this, where it is critical that something is resolved quickly, that we know. But both sides seem adamant, are adamant. We know the doctors have said, don't play us again. It's not the first time that this has happened. Where do you see this going in the next couple of days? And what can we hopefully expect?
The buck stops with the president as the big man. He needs to put his house in order. He needs to have his priorities right. And he needs to have a conversation with his representatives on this. The doctors are not crazy. They have been living this condition for all this while. You see, they're very reasonable. Let's give them. You see, what I love what South Africans did. They also had a similar problem in 2021. I like what they did. What did the president do? The president went himself to the negotiating table and said, you know what, I've come here. I want to listen. And listen to them and say, this is what we are going to give you. And ties. At some point, you need to also to understand the psychology of the people you're dealing with. You see, the psychology of the people you're dealing with. If B is what we want, and there's A, C, and F, B, you can offer A, C, and F, and B is where our mind are. Give B and then decline these other ones. You shall have still done the same thing. You see, it's just psychological. You don't have to fight with everyone.
Indeed.
Some people, you must have to learn the art of understanding the psychology of people. So I think the backstop with the president. If that is not the position, then I think this matter will go back to the courts, and the courts will decide the way forward. Because I think people are now tired. It's over 44 days. Still, healthcare is in chaos. So the courts will give direction. Indeed. But how I wish that the government just, took this a little bit seriously, and then have a discussion on CBO with good heart.
With good heart.
Then we'll be in a better situation.
It will be an interesting couple of days or weeks and seeing what happens with that. Kefa Ojijo, thank you for being here this morning, an advocate of the High Court, as we go through some of these issues and one of the biggest human resource issues affecting the country today. Asante Sana for joining us. We hope to talk with you again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation this Thursday. Be careful, the rains are still coming down as you traverse these country's streets. Take care. We'll talk again tomorrow. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life